every 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Your what's good, Clips? What's good, Ainsley? What's good, Sandman? What's good, official TQ? Oh, almost dropped my freaking karmic shit. What's up, Miles? What's up, KC? New to streams. What's up? What's up, man? Appreciate you for being here. Grayson, KC Grayson. What's up, Faceless? Wait, why when I tried to join, it said YouTube crashed? I don't know. Let me throw my glasses on. Oh yeah, now I'm seeing it 4K. Now I'm seeing it 4K. What's up, Rainbow? Wait, no, yeah, they're clean. Shit, are they? Yeah, they're clean. It's just like a weird corner smudge. We good. All right. I'm not gonna lie. When I woke up, I had no idea what I was gonna talk about today, what I was gonna do. I'm gonna be so real. I had no plans. And then I remember something. There's a TikToker that is in the Ordeal Discord that posts some of his videos in there sometimes. And one of them had caught my eye and I wanted to talk about it. Like this was probably like last month. So I got his page opened up right here on the side. We're gonna look at some of his videos. I think he has a couple that I think are really worth looking into and talking about. But I don't know the subject matters of all of them just yet. Just based on the thumbnails, I think 2 of them are going to be really interesting. Outside of that, no other plans. I have no clue what we'll be doing. Not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe we can like, I don't know. Maybe I can like share some story stuff, something like that. I don't know. But we'll get there when we get there. How y'all feeling today? How y'all doing? Oh, let me change the chat again. I don't know if it's always on top. Let's keep it at live. Slazy Reborn. Let me drink some of this water too. Oh yeah, that's nice and chilled. That's some chilled water. What's up, Shanks? Photosynthesis not working. That's hilarious. Oh, I gotta look, you gotta turn my headset on, so I won't be able to hear what he's saying either. I don't know how I always forget this part. I mean, I gotta take my glasses. I just put my glasses on. I gotta take them off. You good? That's good to hear, man. I'm pretty good. Hey, I had some cinnamon sugar waffles earlier. Oh man, I love making those. My battery, we still at 50% somehow. I don't know how I don't have any less battery. What's up, Quake? Pretty good, man. How are you doing? All right, let me go ahead and switch over to screen. Let's turn this off. And let's change. You actually can't see that. I don't know. Sounds delectable. Bro, they are, bro, I promise. Let me this one right here. I don't know how loud that'll be, not gonna lie. All right, so shout out real quick, shout out Dio Scamo. Shout out to him, bro. We're gonna look at this video here and this video here. I think these two are probably the most interesting to look at, but I do also want to check these two out, and then this one, and then these two, and of course this one. So like basically all of these except for like this one, and I'm not sure if I will look at this one, but we can look at this one. I just want to make sure the audio is good when the video actually plays. I could do a poll in the chat and see which one y'all want to look at first. Low key, maybe I should try doing that. Let's see how that works. Let's start a poll, and then I'll do which vid first, and then I'll do female. Excuse my spelling. And then on the second one, I'll do clans. I'll do clans arc. That work? Oh, that's so cool. All right, I just put the poll in the chat, y'all. That's actually fire. And put the background music on though. Oh, you guys didn't hear that twice. Okay, that's better. Any short and do analysis. Go ahead and vote on that poll, y'all. Okay, y'all want to do the female characters one first? That's kind of fire. This is cool. This a W little interaction right there. I like that. I'm gonna let y'all vote on that. I actually don't know how many people are in here. They ran straight for female characters. I think the concept he goes for off the thumbnail alone is going to be interesting because it says representation versus utilization, so it should be an interesting discussion. All right, I think that's good. 13 votes, 14? How's it 50-50? Damn. Bro said we love female. Shout out Scout. Don't blame us. I'm sorry, dog. I just got to see more talks about Andrea. All right. Is 50-50 in chat? It's 50-50 in chat. All right, there we go. There we go. What's up, Summer? Bro said they thirsty. Brent doesn't like writing them clearly though. I think he did what's her name decently. But Andrea, we don't gotta talk about Andrea. I'll talk about Andrea in the review. Well, I mean, I guess we'll talk about her right here too, but you get the point. My favorite Andrea weapon? If I'm being honest, it's probably Elliot. I think I like Elliot the most. Yeah, I think I like Elliot the most. Sonya? Yeah, we don't gotta talk about Sonya either. All right, seems like the female characters, real ones. So let's go ahead and look at that one first, and then we'll look at the clans and royals. I'm not gonna lie, W participation, that was kind of fire. That was kind of fire. Oh, Rajani. He did Rajani well. He did Rajani decently. All right, hold on. Let me change this real quick and make sure. All right, y'all let me know if this is too loud or too quiet. I won't really know. I feel like the women of the Ordeal webtoon are missing something. I'm not gonna lie, it's already sounding way too quiet. So let me go ahead and turn up that volume. Bro didn't like how Yukiko was done? Nah, shit pissed me off. Wait. Specifically when it comes to how they're written. I might have to get a freaking upscale thingy thing. And then
the narrative
Oh wait. Oh, let me max this volume out.
specifically. Um, Obviously,
That's as loud as it's gonna get. I'm not gonna lie. I can't see. Let me check the stream from my end and from y'all's perspective to see how loud that is. But that's about as loud as it's gonna go. That's not bad. That's not bad. That's not bad. I think that's good. I think we got it right there. I think that's good. All right, let's go ahead and start over. We're gonna let the whole 2 minutes and 30 seconds play, and then we'll dissect and discuss after. All right, let's lock in. Let's
feel
lock in.
like the women of the Ordeal. I feel like the women of the Ordeal webtoon are missing something specifically when it comes to how they're written and the narrative specifically. Obviously, it's nothing bad because I feel like Ordeal as a piece of work, literary work or webtoon work, is very good when it comes to representation across many mediums, whether that be race, gender, or anything of the sort. But when it comes to the women specifically, there's this sort of like lack of a female character that pushes the narrative like by herself or like solo that has such a narrative importance. You're kind of wondering how the decisions will shift the entire framework of the story in general. Like when we look at someone like Shay Hart, when we look at Abel Legasov, when we look at Thanatos, when we look at The Shadow, when we look at even someone like Aldous Ross, because his decisions will kind of shift the entire Ordeal plot politically. When it comes to just like micro decisions and community, all of these people push the narrative with their decisions. Like if you just see some random battle or some random panel and one of these people show up, like you're gonna not only say like, oh shit, like they're about to fuck shit up, like you're gonna say, oh, what is their decisions here going to mean for everything coming in the future. But when you look at like a female character or most of the female characters in the cast, you don't think that specifically. You think what is her decision is going to mean for
I'm
another
from
character
Michigan.
that so happens to be a man. Like for
That's not where I
the
live.
instance of Yukiko Hart, you're kind of like, what are her decisions right now to be a man? Like for the instance of Yukiko Hart, you're kind of like, what are her decisions right here going to do for Shay Hart in terms of like his reactions or how this would support him going down this path versus this path. Same with like Andrea, same with most of the female characters in Ordeal right now. I'm not saying that this won't change in the future. I'm not even saying that like this won't even change within the next season, because with Shay going down this path, I feel like Yukiko Hart has such a opportunity to grow into this like narrative pen pusher, like this narrative shifter, because she will kind of be, without her brother, she will kind of be seen as this entity or this like her own sort of like force or entity where she will show up on the battlefield and like that will shift the entire tide of things. I'm just waiting to see that moment, and I'm waiting to see the moment where like a female character has that sort of narrative weight that some of these male characters have, because that would add such this level of diversity and like richness that I think Ordeal could use.
All right, all right, all right. Let me throw on the background music, and we'll go ahead and dissect what he said. We'll go ahead and dissect what he said. Now, where can I like it? Let me like it. I actually made a TikTok account, if you can tell. If you want to follow me on TikTok, go ahead. I don't have any videos up, but eventually I will, just not anytime soon. I like what he says here. I like what he says here, and I think everything he says here is true. He kind of tackles the subject matter in two parts. First, he brings up representation, and sort of in relation to how Ordeal does representation when it comes to the sort of widespread aspect of it. And then he focuses on the female characters, and it kind of feels like the series as a whole not just underrepresents women, but underrepresents women even from a diverse standpoint, right? Then he kind of subverts and then goes into utilization, where he talks about how the male characters are narrative pushers. Shay is a really good example, but so is Aldridge, right? These individuals are characters that outright have drastic potential change within the story, right? Depending on the decisions they make. And whereas the female characters don't really have that same weight, okay? Um, Now, again, I agree with everything he said here. There is an underlying issue of lack of sort of female usage, right? The only female characters who I think even in season 3 who get real use is Sonya and Rajani. Yukiko, kind of, but I put her in the same category as Andrea, where they get use, but it's not really important. Like, it's not really important. Technically, Shay couldn't get Zahara without Andrea, but that kind of adds to the conversation where she's only being used in relation to Shay, right? But then we have like Rajani, where she's kind of used as a way to kind of observe, like actively observe an individual who sides with Thanatos and who has full faith in that side, as opposed to someone on Shay and Code's side who think they can win, right? Rajani firmly believes that they will lose, and so she sides with Thanatos. She also does it to protect her family, right? And I think that's a really good sort of piece and aspect about her, because she is the clan head, as opposed to a lot of the other characters who are kind of just there, you know what I mean, and kind of fighting because somebody else influenced them. But she is a leader who has to take care of her own, right? So I think she's done relatively well. But then there's somebody like Sonya. I mean, like, she's in a fight, but like she don't really do much. She kind of, I think what really matters most for Sonya is kind of the end part, as opposed to everything else she does. Like, she's like the reason Kirito was able to give us as the readers the information we have about him and Konos. And then at the end, of course, she has potential to save Kofi, right? But like that's kind of it. Like, she doesn't really do a lot. Like, she doesn't really do much, right? Now, Andrea is sort of a topic in this category because she's very prominent. Even in this picture, she was the prominent female character when this series started, right? And then she honestly kind of keeps her sort of reign in season 2, right? When the season starts, they're training against her, and they kind of come close to winning, but she still technically wins, right? She wins the fight that she has along with everybody else. She ends up volunteering to basically cover their exit and escape solo, just for her to fight a Gaki, in air quotes, Gaki level individual by herself, while everybody else is facing multiple threats on different fronts, right? She's there alone and has to be there alone, right? So in those sort of aspects, she's used really well. She is, like I said, the sort of initial powerhouse female character who stands around and stands out. And then her loss to Goro drastically changes her character, which is good. I don't think somebody like her, considering who her grandfather is, I feel like it makes sense for her to kind of wither as a character before she, progresses back once again. I think it makes sense how Brent did it. The real problem is that there is no active progression after that, right? It feels like she literally becomes Shay's fiance, and then that's it. Like, there's nothing else there. I already have this section where I talk about her character and how she's how underdeveloped she is, or there's no active development after that. I already have it written out in the script for the review, but she doesn't get any progress. She doesn't move forward at all. Like, and at no point is there any sort of active acknowledgement of her moving forward after the fight with Jose and stuff like that, right? Which is bad, because we already have her defaulting into Shay's fiance as a role, which is fine, but then there's no sort of conversation or active development between them two in their relationship, or Andre as an individual. So by nature, the two of them are now becoming one yet they are still operating and acting as two separate individuals, right? That alone, that alone is not good, bro. Like that alone isn't good, right? That's actually crazy. So for kind of Brent to sort of do what he does in writing to relate it to the Bible, the season from their standpoint should have looked a lot more at them being together as opposed to being apart, kind of regardless of what Shay is going through, at least in my opinion. Now, when we look at other female characters, I think Yukiko's another good one to look at, because she's young and she has a lot of active potential for growth in her character and in her power, right? And she has a really good female model to kind of look at in terms of how she can act, not just in Andrea, but from her mother as well. And I think that's really good. I think May is a little underrated. I think we talked about May, but I think May was used very well as well in season 2. A very good example of a mother figure, right? And what it kind of means to be a mother and what you're willing to do for your child, right? So Yukiko has potential to kind of be like her mother in terms of character, but also be like her father in terms of power, which I think is really good. And I think if utilized right, in the way he's saying, she can be used as a way to kind of change the narrative, right? Or make decisions that actively affect the story in grander ways, as opposed to not, basically, right? There aren't any other real female characters who kind of do anything either, though. So like all the female characters we have, none of them actively do anything that affects the grander narrative, at least in my opinion. Like, yeah, we have the code heads, we have somebody like Nico. Nico's important, but because she's able to get people places quickly, but that's it. Like that's all. Like she doesn't really do anything else. Like you can replace her, you can replace Nico with a you could honestly replace Nico with a male version of herself and it does the same thing. And that's kind of the point. If you can replace a character with if you can kind of replace a character with another and it doesn't really change anything, depending on who that person is, that's either really bad or really good, right? It just depends, right? But then we look at somebody like, we look at the others, like Joanne. In the verse, she is really important because she funds code. But like from our perspective, outside of that, she doesn't actively do anything else that's really important. Like she's not relevant outside of being a breadwinner, right? Not bad, but we could make that more relevant in the story. Like we can actually make that more relevant. And then there's Mara and Ina, right? She's cool, but she, outside of combat, there's nothing else she really does. And then the next time we see her technically fight, in air quotes, she gets one tapped, right? So again, there's no real relevancy right there. Like there's not a lot she does. And I think the length of the series kind of partially adds to this, because there's no real room to make them more relevant in the time span we actually have, or in the time frame we actually have been given. But we look at somebody like Andrea, we look at like the two other god tier, the only two female god tier. I think Zuri has a lot of potential for good representation. Not just a black woman, but as a good representation of sort of Africa as well, right? I think she can do two things at once. And then there's Bree. Now, Bree's a toss-up. Wait, are there any female hands? There are. There's Alice, and then there's what's her name? Amara. Other good candidates. I think those four, they're supposed to have. I feel like Alice has more potential, I guess, to be better utilized and represented than like Amara. But Zuri is another really good candidate for that subject. I think, especially if season 4 starts in Africa and a lot of it is prominent in Africa, I think Zuri can have a great sort of role and purpose throughout the course of the season, right? And if she doesn't, it's almost like, why is she there then? Like, we're told in season 2 that she protects all of Africa, and then Brent said that season 4 was going to some seemingly be very prevalent in Africa. So if Zuri doesn't have a sort of grander role in the season, why is she there? Like, why is she there? Right? Like, what does she actually do? You know what I mean? And we can kind of ask that for like other gods here in season 3 as well. But it would be a really big missed opportunity to use her character, because you have a prominent female character in power that protects a grand landmass, and she's reduced to nothing, right? She's reduced to nothing. And that's really bad. I think if season 4 goes the way I'm thinking, but has an aspect of something I'm thinking about, I think Zuri can be really important in season 4. But if not, I really don't know what she or kind of anyone else really will do. Oh, there's also somebody like what's her name? Junie? Yeah. Junie just gets done bad this season as well. Not as bad as Andrea, but I like how she's utilized as some sort of like espionage spy sort of individual, right? Gathering intel, kind of going in and out. But she didn't really get a chance to do or like show off her character fully prior to then show how her change is like more deeply affects her, right? And that kind of leads into, now we only really will know Junie as this sort of death related character. And if she's not used, her change almost doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who she ends up becoming, because if she's not represented or utilized, it doesn't really matter, right? I think that's the sort of grander point with this subject, as there's a lot of male characters and there aren't as many female characters. So Brent really has to hit the nail on the head in how just as impactful he can make the female characters. I think the only real impactful one is May and maybe Junie. Or not Junie, maybe Rajani. Maybe. And May has a good character, but she's almost only as important as she is because of her talent. But I don't want to reduce her character like that, because that's disingenuous. That's disingenuous in my opinion. Do you think other countries will be shown in Ordeal, like USA or Italy or something like that? Potentially. Wait, definitely didn't. Tevin has gone to Port of Spain. That's in Trinidad though. That's where most of the series takes place. Honestly, forgot Bree's name for like 2 weeks. That's really funny. That green girl gets a ton of focus because Brent said that she, alongside the rest of his group, are family to him. Yeah, that's true. The thing with Junie is that one moment she was chilling and the next she was calling herself a Reaper. While that sudden shift is fine in a bubble, we didn't have enough time with her. And she was part of the table to really digest the complexity of the shift in her demeanor. Exactly. Aside from that, she can be replaced by a magical teleporting toaster and nothing changes. That's funny. I think we're talking about pain. Who knows why? Wait, Andrea in season 3's ending has been implied to follow Shay until she can no longer bear the pain of doing so, at which she'll leave him to continue on his own. I want her to do more than that though. Agreed. I wanted more from her this season. I'm not gonna say there's no room for her in the next season, but it feels like there's no real there's no real, I'm not really sure how to do it properly. Yes, I'm not sure how to really dissect her character properly going forward. I do think you could do a sort of addition by subtraction thing where we look at parts of her past, like missions, like prior missions before she met Shay, or not met Shay, before she joined the Cubs in Trinidad after Leo's death. You could do something like that where a sort of grand lesson comes back into play, which I think is good. But outside of that, I'm not too sure. Leo's death was more or less rushed to move the story. I don't even think his death was rushed. He can die exactly how he does. We just need more focus on the things he did in his prior life, because the story starts basically at the end of his life. So all we need to do is just look at more previous points, and especially how he affected others. That's all we need to do from him. I say Brent has to get 70 to 80% of the female characters something interesting. Big emphasis on kinda shown. 70 to 80% of the female characters. I think it just because how many, who actually is still around? Okay, there's Yukiko, Andrea, Junie. I'm not gonna count the little girl because we haven't seen her yet. There's Zuri, there's Bree, there's both of the hands. There's Joanna, and that one Gaki. I think there's 2 female Gaki. I think one of the Gaki we haven't seen is a woman, but I can't be too sure. But then there's Roberto's girlfriend. So that's 9 female characters. I may or may not have counted Yukiko. I don't remember. Out of all of those characters, Zuri has the most potential to be used. Yukiko, Andrea, and Junie. And the only other person I would actually want to see would be Alice. I don't care about Bree. And I'm not really sure, at least at the start of the season, where he would use her. So that's really it. So like, I don't think every female character has to get importance or real utilization. But I do think at least half of them should. Yeah, I'm pretty sure her name was Joanne. Joanna's the code head with the diamonds. Who's the strongest female in Ordeal? Probably Bree. Probably. Sonya, oh yeah. Well, Sonya got utilized last season. I forgot about her. Sonya is probably stronger than Bree based off what she showed against the kid. I feel like you can't even say that because we. Oh, Joanne. That's what it is. Joanne, not Joanna. Right. You can't say that because we haven't seen her nominee. That's unfair. Bree gives me Sonya Blade vibes. It's kind of fair. Shit, you can almost put what's her name above Bree? Almost. Ariel. Any other subject we should hit? Any other aspects of this conversation? Rest in peace, Avalon. She's a support, and I know in my heart she'll be asked, but technically I can't say it factually. Yeah, and I'm always objective, so you can't. Her being a support doesn't really matter in my opinion. She made it to God tier as a support, so I mean, that's already a feat in its own. What is the writing for Nico? We better be good because of support talent in GT ranks. The real question is where would she be placed story wise? Put her in season 5 because I don't care about her right now. Put her in season 5 because I don't care about her right now. Unless she's somehow made more relevant when we see Agent 16 again. Ow. Like, is she damage control? Is she a Kimyo healer? Honestly, just get Bonnie to Uber. Oh, Bonnie was used pretty good in season 2, actually. Now I'm remembering her as a character because Brent literally disappeared her. On some, I'm not gonna make that joke, actually. Yeah, Bonnie was used kind of like May. She has that like mother figure role, right? Especially when we look at her conversation with Shay too. She was used pretty well. Well, I guess well enough for what we saw from her. We could have seen more technically, but I think she was used well enough. What are those scissor blades for? Combat? Question mark? I mean, what else would they be for? Bonnie should have been moving like magic. It's funny. That's pretty funny. Imagine Brent made her die of old age. That'd be crazy. I was getting kind of on my nerves how he sidelines the female characters. We need more than 6 seasons. We don't need more than 6 seasons. We just need more episodes. Like, instead of making one season a span of like 2 months, make one season a span of like 3-4 years. But he doesn't just sideline female characters. He sidelines the characters in general. There's just less female characters in comparison to the male ones, so it seems more like, I guess targeted. Imagine Shay boomed Bonnie's outrageous. That's a good point. I feel like she, if anyone, should have spoke to Shay while he was in private training. It's fair. It's kind of fair. Is Kagi going to be like Itachi? Why would I feel he would be just like Kaguya? We don't know. Is the writing actually getting lackluster? Not necessarily. I think less minute things are written, so some of the grand things are how do I say it? Some of the grand things are more prominent and more like they kind of like hit harder. But I think a lot of things are a little bit more underlying than people realize. So like Shay's fight with Rajani was written pretty well in my opinion. The concept of it, what they discuss before they fight, how it ends, the sort of parallel Sin and Cursed Chi should have. I feel like that's all written really well. And then the final parallel with Shay kind of looking like Leo at the end, right? I think all that's pretty good in my opinion. But like, there's just like very specific aspects, like individual characters, like Tevin. If we look at Tevin probably should have far more importance and screen time than like 90% of the other characters. But this season, he didn't get anything that actually made him relevant to the plot. Take Tevin out, and the entirety of the season stays the same. You know, the entirety of the season stays the same. The Greyhounds may potentially die or have more casualties, potentially, but the way it's shown, them niggas would have been fine without Tevin. Damn near, right? Now, if there was a cameo present, that'd be different. But like, there wasn't. So Tevin being there does, like, Tevin, I guess Tevin being there doesn't take away from what they actually did. And then Tevin being in Trinidad doesn't add to much. Like, I'd like when he called out, again, we don't need more than 6 seasons. It's not necessary. We need more episodes. The story needs to take more time, to take more span across the time. Like, for example, Tower of God is 3 seasons right now. 3 seasons. However, the series itself spans across multiple months and like a couple years worth of time, right? That's all he needs to do. I think Tower of God has like 400 episodes or something like that. That's literally all. How do y'all think Tevin becomes a GT? I mean, we already know how a GT is a GT, so that's not a, I'm not gonna say it's not a good question, but it's a question that's already answered, I guess. We need at least 9 seasons. Ain't gonna lie, 6 seasons isn't gonna be enough. 9 seasons, honestly, I feel like the most you could do is 7. 9 feels like because the plot's basic. Like, it's not like the plot is the most intricate thing in the world. Like, the actual plot itself is, it's not that crazy. So you don't need a lot to tell a simplistic story. Like, you don't need a lot to tell a simplistic story. Jay's saying we just need more eps. I mean, the Tower of God example basically proves what I just said. And Tower of God isn't even close to being done, but like, look at how much happens across multiple eps and multiple arcs, across multiple months or years worth of skip, right? Like, that's basically all. I missed something. But we saw nothing in terms of that being valid outside of him somewhat keeping up with Shay when racing to Zam and Yuki. But even then, that's just a speed feat. Yeah, he could. We still have barely scratched the surface with Kaguya and his relationship to his brother. I just feel like making Kaguya like Itachi feels like a cop-out. I think Ordeal power system and character design is covering little bit of lack in the story? Huh? Ordeal's power system and character design is covering a little bit of lack in the story? You might have to reword that. If we had a third faction, I can see the justification of more seasons. I think if the story expanded on like the sort of minute and like individualistic factions, like for example, in my own story, there are groups. There's what are they? They're like a yakuza group, basically, right? Or like a mob boss and a mob family, right? If the story kind of looked at areas like that, or like corrupted individuals who do their own research and how that affects the sort of grander world, I can understand that. But like, we don't dive into the minute and real detailed aspects of the actual world. We look at the grander things that are going on in relation to the main characters and the main factions, right? Itachi had the benefit of working for the village to ensure its survival. Kaguya is a Kimyo supremacist and directly aided in the deaths of his brother and wife. Exactly. Wait, one major difference, Kaguya literally was part of his brother's death. The Imugi mentioned, that's funny. It would be difficult to set Kaguya up like Itachi, given how he's already been shown. yeah. Um, I assume it would be the Sasuke in this case, but even then, yeah. Unless you could maybe say Yukiko, but based on the way he looked at her, but like, like that's a big real big I want to look at this one next. Let me drink some water, and then we're gonna look at the next. Actually, I think this video kind of depending on what he says here, I think it kind of can add to the reason why like maybe an extra season would be good, right? W hydration. I wish I had more snacks, bro. I don't got enough snacks, man. Turn this off. Turn this on. A mob or gang with cameos would be dope in the story. That's why I'm hoping he gets canon. All right.
New Ordeal.
All right, we're gonna watch the entire 2 minutes 54 seconds. And then we'll discuss.
Idea. We just gonna hop straight into it. This is just basically like an arc I would like to see in the future, especially with Shay going on this rolling path. He's going on like this little rogue path and stuff. So I would like to see a little kind of like 5 Kage Summit-esque thing where most of the clan heads meet. All of like, not clan heads, most of the clans meet for some sort of convention or some sort of meeting or something where we get to see all of the different families and we finally get to put some sort of like names to faces per se. We know Sonya is from a clan. We know Orion Atlas is from a royal family and stuff. Obviously, we have looked into like the Heart clan and the Hemlock clan, but like I want to see an event where all the other clans are showed off because this would be a good moment to kind of add some development for some of these other characters, especially with Shay kind of being off on his own. But don't worry, you can still get your Shay or Farm moments. He can still show up because he's still got that cloak on. Nobody knows where he is for real. So look, you can still get the Shay or Farm moments. But in terms of like character development, you can develop Yukiko a lot. Like with her brother going on his road path, I would assume the Heart clan gives that like clan hero to her. Okay, but then they would step up, accept her formally, and you know she would train with them. So you got that. But then you can also have like her feelings or her introspection on that too. And then you have Andrea, who is also like Shay's wife, so she could kind of be accepted by the Heart clan as well in terms of just like, you know, being a partner of like previous clan head prospect and stuff. You could obviously do that. And with this last Jujutsu Kaisen episode coming out, like you can introduce some new characters that might not be for the people, might not be for the cause. New clan heads that might be trying to move crazy, move dirty. Like now, yeah, come on. So just something. Yeah, obviously there could be grounds for conflict. All the clans in one specific place, you know, someone might show up, and then you know someone can come in or farm say today. Look,
That's funny.
The thought is there, but then you have some sort of like you introduce some characters that might do some trying to move greasy, trying to get some power, and that adds for like a nice little small subplot or whatever. But also that subplot could be for some of these side characters. They level up, they figure out these subplots, or they figure out these schemes, and they fight the bad guys. And it doesn't have to be some sort of like overarching killer per se. It don't have to be some Thanatos level threat, but they still getting some shine, they still getting some development. But that's just me. I feel like a little 5 Kage Summit for all the royal families and clans would be cool, but let me know what y'all think.
Okay. I think the concept he's going for can work. Now again, hold on, let me put the background music on. Turn this off, put this on. I think the concept he's going for can work. And yeah, what he mentions about like Orion, and I guess he said Sonya being like from clans, that's not true. That's not true. The royal title is just for the hands, so this shouldn't even be here. this shouldn't even be here. It should really just be clans and families arc, right? So let's look at how I would do this concept from my perspective, right? Especially as a subplot, or I guess maybe like, yeah, I guess a semi subplot, right? So, we know of the Hart clan, the Hemlock family, the Ross family, the Oduzo clan, the Masamune clan, which I'm pretty sure is dead. And I think that's it. However, even in episode 113, I think the what's the name? Himmel, the short guy with the mask. I think he kind of implies that there's like probably like 5 other families out there, with at least one like notable talent, right? We can actually even put Abijah's clan in there. Yeah. So in my mind, there's also actually, before I say that, there's also the concept of like members of the 150 also being from clans or families, with their talents being shared, right? Across the gens. Like, what's his name? Actually, Eric, what's his last name? Edward? Technically, he comes from a family, actually. I think he's the 15th member, like the 15th head or something like that. So he would actually also count. So the idea can work. Wait, that would only work if the clans in Ordeal were set up like clans in JJK, in that they have their own political power aside from the government. The metal robot dude from season 1? Question mark? Rajani's clan? Yeah, but they're like dead, so it doesn't really matter. Or they should be conceptually gone. So he said, which is cooked thanks to Shay. That's funny. I feel like Yukiko's going to die because of monologue. No, she can't die yet. She just can't die yet. Brent can't kill her before showing more of the Hisame talent, right? He can't kill her before he basically can't kill her yet. Like, he can't. Because if he was gonna kill her, he could have either not made her a Kimyo and actually killed her in season 2, which would add to Shay's character now, or he could have just not written her in the story, like as a whole, right? But she can't die yet. She can't die yet. Okay, how would I do this concept? Considering the families we have now. So we know the Hart clan is scattered. However, it's almost implied that every living Hart clan member knows of Shay and Yukiko. At least based on like season 2, Nico and Johan in season 3. So we could do a sort of pre-gathering of the remaining Hart clan members, right? We could do that. Of course, we can have Elon Jr. We can have members of the Edward family. We could actually even now introduce the Oduzos, like officially. I guess you could bring Abijah's clan there, I guess, and have him like sit there as a clan head, right? I guess it makes sense. You might be able to introduce a couple other clans. The real question is like, what is the goal of this meeting, right? Love how the Reddit gives you respect. Hey, I appreciate that. I don't be in there because it's toxic and cancerous, but you know, I appreciate them giving me my flowers. What is the plot? What we could do in theory is we know Shay ends up at Code's most wanted list, right? What we could do, and it's a little risky. It's a little risky, but I think it can work. We could have the Code heads gather the families, because it's already kind of implied that this is something that could have happened in the past, right? Okay, and kind of say that it hasn't happened for such and such amount of years. Okay, the meeting will be about Shay, and how he's a growing threat, right? What's up, Trixie? And how he's a growing threat, right? And the reason they're looking at the families is because, or I guess specific family members, is because yes, they have the 150. Yes, they have a certain amount of whatchamacallit, but of KCG members, but the clans are the ones with sort of more notable powers and talents in the verse, in air quotes, right? So what they could do is they could hold a meeting about Shay becoming a growing threat, specifically in relation to other clans, right? This will kind of show who, like, where different sort of Kinyo's heads are at, right? We can have someone like Elon Jr., maybe with like Tevin at his side. We could have somebody like Yukiko. Those two kind of, I'm not going to say they understand what Shay's doing, or maybe they're too young to fully comprehend the actual situation at hand here. We could have a grand elder of the Oduzos sort of agree with what Shay is doing, right? I feel like that fits. And then we could have like a new clan head in relation to Edward. Even though the previous one was a part of the first table, you honestly could say that the new clan head hates Shay or disagrees with what he's doing and has animosity towards him because he wasn't present when the previous clan head, which would be Edward, actually died. I think there's a good dynamic that can be played out there, right? So, again, the meeting is about Shay, but in my mind, it's kind of like a bounty thing, right? Like a sort of, if you just so happen to run into him, you either avoid him at all costs, or you try and, I don't want to say take his head, but you could kind of bring him in, right? It's a little interesting, and I don't think it can work based on scaling. But there's definitely room in there. There's definitely some breathing room in there, right? Because Brent even said he's introducing a lot of god tier characters, so he can introduce strong characters without them having to be actual associates of, the 150 or the GT themselves, right? Which I think it helps the scaling, because now we know that yes, the Kinyo population as a whole is already small, but then the actual high tier population is also still small, right? You could do something like that, right? And so that way, when Shay runs into another Kinyo, if they are from the clan or they're from a certain family, whether he fights them, whether Junie fights them, whether the Ancient One fights them, it'll be with the express purpose of trying to bring Shay into Code, right? And that could be an underlying plot of the, maybe not the season, maybe not just season 4, that could be an underlying plot of even season 5, right? I think it's better to do it now if it were to happen, but that way we can kind of focus on 3 things. We can focus on an initial meeting that kind of sets up the season, right? Or like a subplot that we'll see. We can see Shay and the revolving characters around him through flashbacks, and then we see what kind of the Code and Thanatos factions have been doing in terms of clashing, right? It might be a lot to juggle, but the resulting plotline of this isn't the main focus. It's just an underlying thing that can be weaved in and introduced 2 or 3 times before it's kind of disregarded or only brought back up later on, right? That's kind of how I would do it. That's a big rough draft, and it's kind of a big question mark on who would actually be there. But to have Yukiko, Elon Jr., a new Edward family, or the new Ross if Aldrich is dead. Duzo member, Abijah, like those sort of characters can actually add to the discussion that revolves around what Shay does or what he has been doing, right? I like the idea of Yukiko and Elon Jr. not really having a whole lot to say during the discussion, but somebody like Elon Jr., because he's so close to the wolf pack, and somebody like Tevin, because I really need that interaction. Somebody like Tevin, he can sort of understand from what Tevin would tell him, basically, the sort of path and sort of purpose Shay has to go down, why his actions are completely unrelated to code and why they are so drastically different, right? Whereas Yukiko, maybe still a little bit emotional, can only see her brother, who isn't the same as who he was in season 1, right? And then again, we can have the Edward family member just outright dislike Shay, despise Shay, want Shay gone, like completely out of the picture, regardless of his purpose. And I think this adds to the human, or like more human moral aspect of the story, where not every character is gonna know about a divine plan or God's presence in the story, right? His actual purpose for Shay. Not everybody's gonna know it, and not everybody's gonna understand it, right? So a character like Edward, who can hold a new clan head in relation to the Edward family, who holds a grudge in regards to Shay and disagrees with how he operates, feels right, right? It feels right. It feels right. And then again, I really do think an Oduzo clan member, I'm not saying they would side with Shay, but they might just leave him alone because they kind of agree with the sort of destruction and mayhem he causes. I think based on the Beastgaki, that sort of character type would fit their clan a little bit better than everything else. And then we have somebody like Abijah, who would also probably just disagree with what Shay has been doing, especially with him saying that Shay's revealing of his chi renounced their trust. I think there's definitely something you can do there. And again, this wouldn't be a sort of overarching plot. It would just be a subplot or something that's only introduced 1 or 2 times, but it doesn't really have to be Shay who fights them. I think the concept of this works better if the members of Shay's new squad are the ones who fight. The only real thing about that is that you have to do at least two other families. You have to do at least 2 other families, because Elon Jr. is not going to fight. Yukiko's not going to fight. I genuinely think the Oduzo clan, I think they can fight if you write it that way, but I'd like the idea of them not fighting, or abstaining from like the procedure. So you have to introduce like 2 or 3 other families. You have to introduce 2 or 3 other families for them to actually be the ones to fight somebody like Junie, somebody like the Ancient One, and even the what's his name, the Midnight Robber, right? I know it's sort of small. It kind of only adds to, but it also adds to those characters, right? And it would be a little repetitive because we would be seeing like these families like show up and try and fight Shay, but such and such intercedes and gets in the way, right? So Shay and the rest of the group get to go off, but this one individual stays back to fight them. But while it is a repetitive thing, I think what you can do while kind of keeping that repetition is you could have the character who's fighting the clan member sort of speak on Shay's behalf, the way the pillars were doing with the god tier, right? I think you can do it like that. That way, it's almost like you're getting the new clan heads or these new characters to understand why Shay does the thing he does, why he moves the way he moves, without actually having to have Shay show or be the one to say it himself. Because we don't want to see Shay a whole bunch. I'm tired of seeing Shay. I'm tired of seeing him. Let me see somebody else do some cool shit, but then speak either highly or ill of him, right? However, I don't think you can introduce another like set of clan members without there being an actual reason, right? There's no real reason to introduce them. So if you don't do something like this, there's no real reason to bring them into the story, right? That's my idea, that's my concept. I think that's the only way it can work. Let me know y'all's thoughts. Let me look at some of the chat though. Miles said you could also connect Abijah's admonishment of shade to his combo with Azam in the past. Keep Leo's Thomas teaching in your mind. If you stray, I will come for you. That's very good. I like that. Diabolical threat, by the way. Zamushuk. Wait, who's Abijah going to fight? Kirito or Shay or maybe even Azam if he becomes a Ronin? Abijah's for sure gonna fight Azam. He almost has to. Sort of like how the X-Men have to fight Magneto plus the government. Yeah, I guess. Somebody can probably make that connection make more sense. Or like, I should say, agree with that sentiment. I don't read enough comics, so I can't fully agree. Maternal said, I can see the vision, Jay. Nice. I don't know who will kill Kevin Morales. It's a really good question. Because like, he's another character that doesn't really have much relevance. I shouldn't say he doesn't have much relevance. He's underutilized, and his relevance that could have been used was not used this season. So, but in my opinion, he's only really relevant when like Leo's involved. So it doesn't really matter. As long as Brent follows the 2-part season style, we'll get 240 chapters. At this rate, I feel like he can tie up enough loose ends if he does them right. I agree. As long as he only does 40. As long as he does 40. If he does 30, then they can keep the Ordeal. No more peak DZ like Nara said. Do you think God tier Tevin will be able to instantly switch between hides while fighting? Yeah, he kind of already did it. In season 1. He doesn't do it in season 2. So like, imagine what he did against Kaguya in season 2. But instead of having to prepare Rhino Hide, he'll just, or not Rhino Hide, Blacksmith Forge and Hammer Hide, he'll just instantly switch. It just makes more sense. 3 chapters in 2 parts for 3 remaining seasons. Yeah. 180 episodes of Ordeal is bleh. Well, that shit trash. Season 4, I think we're due for a Tevin and Anton fight. I'm not sure if Anton will get a fight even in season 4. I'm not gonna say it's too late for him to get a fight, but I think he's better off in a more talkative role. Right, for right now, I think season 5 is like a better spot for him to get a fight or showcase, but it just depends on what happens. Tevin can kind of fight wherever Brent needs him to, wherever Brent needs him to, wherever Brent wants him to. Tevin can kind of fight anywhere he wants. Tevin should low-key be able to have Line and Rhino Hide fight alongside him while in Blacksmith. Yeah, he just won't because it's not in character in my opinion. It's not in character. Like, in theory, all high-class COD users can, but it's just not in character. Like, my main character, he can, but I gave him a different ability that kind of does the same thing. But, like, I mean, Brent already said 30. We'll have to pray and beg. Oh, trust. You don't understand who I am, Naomi. This 30 shit, that shit not gonna fly, bro. If he have 30, bro, my channel finna get deleted. I'm not gonna see no more uploads. I'll make a whole switch. I think we'll get double the current chapters, not more than that. Not more than that because there's not more to stretch it. Except for exploring world building. Double the current chapters. Minimum, yeah. I mean, He almost got to 50. So 30 times 2 would be 60, which he surpassed in season 2. But he's clearly better at keeping a 40 range, so 40 parts. 40 for both parts. Switch to what? Manga. It's not that hard to make a switch, I'm not gonna lie. He said 50 last season and only got to 49, so my faith is reduced. I mean, you heard me complain about that too, so to do 30 isn't enough. It's just not enough. It's not. I don't really know how else you can look at it and just think like, oh yeah, this is good enough. What are your top 2 manhwas? I don't have any right now. I'm not really reading any manhwas. Would you be mad if Brent gave Tevin a panther hide like your character has? Of course I would. But I'm not gonna change anything for my character. So if he did, I mean, that's fine. But I don't think it's. I'm not gonna say it's not in character, but he would have to have like a very specific reason to use it. And I don't think he would do that. Like I expect Tevin to have like a dinosaur related hide or like a mythical creature related hide or a hide more related to concepts like Hammer as opposed to a fucking Black Panther. If he did that, I'd expect what's his name? He'd either give it to somebody in Africa, a racial, or he'd give it to I think his name's Amari. Something like that. Only because it would fit his design. But again, I'm not changing my character based on he's already good enough as he is. He's already good as is. Tevin would look cool with a wing-based hide. You just reminded me that people really thought Jose was Tevin. Still pissed me off. Tevin flying? Tevin flying isn't that bad. Tevin with a shark hide wouldn't be bad either. Only because it would have been kind of cool to see him use one last season. In relation to like where they actually were. Plus he didn't fight Nanaku, but he witnessed it, so there could definitely be something there. Like Tevin can like have anything, so it's like conceptually like it almost depends on who he's fighting, right? So it's like let's just say he's fighting somebody who's really good at slashing attacks, so he makes a shield hide. I know the name is lame as hell, but like Rhino hide just isn't enough, so let me like do one better. Shield hide. His adaptability technically is endless. It's endless. Dragon-based hide, I think that'd be work as well. I want more of a Anton. He's my favorite character, but also I'm scared he's going to die if he fights. Oh, he is. It's already confirmed, gang. Wouldn't Tevin look like that shark dude from season 1? Nah, he'd look more like... I think he'd look more like a Megalodon. As opposed to just the dude from season 1. A Dragonhide would be cool, but like... We already have Dean and Shay, so if it's just fire breathing, then it's like... Why? And if I don't think Dean is a hide user, he's definitely a shift user, but like it's kind of like why give him something somebody else already has, basically, right? So like mythical beast hides. Tevin should get a stealth mission like in Young Justice. Just open up him mid-mission with a cool-ass hide. Could be cool. Yeah, he just has like, I don't want to say infinite potential, but like I think infinite options is a better word. He just has like infinite options. He can conceptually do whatever as long as he's not sleeping on the fucking ground, you know? And then on top of that, he can then take one of his other two hides and apply it to somebody else. So now let's just say he had Elon Jr. fighting with him, right? Let's just say he had Elon Jr. fighting with him. To keep Elon Jr. safe, he could throw Rhino hide on him while Elon Jr. is going crazy with his Ash already, right? Or if he wanted to kind of have to give Elon Jr. more assault potential, he would give him Lionhide, right? And then take that even further, and he can do Lionhide Overdrive, and then we could see like a combo move of like Lionhide with the Ash, right? With Black Forge, do you think he could combine hides? Yeah, we already saw it. He already said that actually. When he gives Shay, no. What do you mean Anton is confirmed to die? Yeah, Brent said it in the Q&A. Like what, 2 years ago? I think it's been 2 years since that. He said so. Somebody asked if Anton could like only go 90% and like live, which in theory he can, but it's clear that the percentages actually have a stake, like an actual additional power buff. So he's gonna end up fighting somebody and having to use 100%, right? I think it'd be better if Anton uses like 90% and just knows like it's not enough still, like he's close, or like who he fights is still stronger than him or rivaling him, but he needs to surpass them, so he goes 100%. That way, we're not seeing him go from 50% to 65 and 75 and 80, and then it's like, okay, well, why didn't he just beat him in 80? Like, why does he need to do 100%? Like, that's all Brent has to do. If Brent just has to actually show Anton fighting in 90%, and then basically force him to use 100 so that his death is more justifiable. Griffin hide actually is pretty cool. You know what? You're kind of spitting with that one. I didn't mean to overlook that. That's pretty fire. I can definitely see that one. Anton hitting the percentages like Hideku. That's funny. All right. What was this concept? I want to look at this one next. I want to know what he's gonna say about this. I want to know what he's gonna say about this. Tevin is going to survive, bros, like Naruto. Yeah, I don't think you can end the story properly by killing Tevin. He has to live. I think it almost makes more sense for Tevin to live and Shay to die than the other way around. Which dragon is your character based on? Well, how many dragons do I have? Okay, so I have a dragon talent. I actually have a few dragons. Hold up. The primary one is based off an Eastern dragon, and I have a dragon knight sort of thing going on where he can take a layer of his hide off, and it takes the form of a four-winged wyvern. Yeah. That's enough. That's enough. I don't need to mention anything else. That's good enough. The second character is based off of Chroma from Warframe and Cloud Jumper from How to Train Your Dragon. I'll say that though. Eastern dragons are just cool. Wait, Anton need to have the best. I think it's supposed to say death, or else I couldn't stand for it. But I can see him dying. Oh, I just realized your name is Lord of the Sauce. It's kind of fire. It's actually kind of fire. Let me sip some water. Stay hydrated. Make sure you got your water. Make sure you got your snacks. The more I talk, the more I think the title of the stream fits. I'm glad that's what I put. I don't know what I was gonna put before. It was gonna be blank. I was gonna click a stream where it was just 5 question marks. And then I was gonna open the stream by saying I'm gonna delete the channel. Confusion bait. Is that W confusion bait? So let me take this off, put this back on.
Ordeal readers. Where is Anu Ankh?
I just know I'm not gonna like what he's about to say here. I can just tell. The best fight? Oh, okay. Which matchup do you think is going to be for Shay in season 4? I think Shay versus Shadow and Kirito 1v2. Then only Shay need to a little bit struggle. If it got 1v1, Shay murders if he doesn't hold back. I don't know. I can't really say. From how it's described by Brent, it feels like, I'm not gonna say we're not gonna see Shay fight, but it feels like we won't see Shay fight as much. So to say who he fights, I'm not really sure. He could fight Vayal. He can fight Vayal. That wouldn't be bad. I'm not gonna say he doesn't fight Kirito, but it feels too soon for him to fight him. It honestly it would kind of feel too soon for him to interact with him. Though 7-year gap may change that, but I think it almost make a little bit more sense if he interacted with him in season 5, or at the very least later on in season 4. Like, he can't even interact with him when the second part of season 4 starts. It would make a little bit more sense for him to do it later on. But I can't really tell. I don't have enough information to go off of just yet. If I had like some design concepts or like a scene, I could do a little bit more, but I don't have anything, so yeah. All right, let's see what he's talking about. I don't know if I'm gonna like this one. Let's not discuss Shay and fights. You're funny.
Readers. Where is Anu Ankh? You're telling me Rokas saucy ass ain't want to give that talent to anyone?
Yes.
He taking his last breath. Shay Hart, you a cool ass dude. You want Anu Ankh? Shay like, no. You telling me he can't think of one person to just slide that over to, bro? Walk with me. Just imagine the possibilities. Imagine Ronin Shade doing whatever type of Batman stuff that he gonna be doing. And just in the cut. And he sees a random cameo fight. We see a character that we have never seen before. And as soon as they whip out the talent, and it's Anu Ankh, and the chapter ends. Brother. Gas, fire, kaboom. Let's talk about other possibilities, because outside of resurrecting him, Wokash was spectacular. As a character, Wokash was spectacular. What if a woman got the talent? That might be the key of having a woman that's free from all sorts of male narratives, because it'll just be like a random woman that we haven't seen but might mean something to Wokash. I might be coping. Or what if we take the woman thing, throw it out, like, set it to the side. We're not gonna say throw it out the window, because that's a really good idea. But what if Rokash breaks the Kimio mythos as it is, and he takes his regular talent and he becomes a living talent? Think about it like this: Hisame is a living talent. You see the spirit behind it, but to my knowledge, Anu Ankh isn't. What if Rokash has so much willpower that his spirit goes with the talent, and his spirit goes with whoever he passes it to? So the next time we see someone use Anu Ankh, we see an image of Rokash behind them. And now that's a problem. Now someone got to deal with that. Because ain't that the whole reason that the shadows stayed in the shadows in the first? Not the whole reason, but a big reason. Because I mean, obviously, Thomas.
Rakesh doesn't have a
He
sister.
did the stuff to
Well,
survive.
actually, I take it back. She's likely
The
dead.
possibilities is endless. We can't let someone as saucy as Rokas Rampasad die.
She's likely
Or at
dead.
least give us talent, bro. That talent was sauce incarnate. We need that. We need that. Just imagine a female Rokas.
Okay. I actually ended up liking his ideas. I'm gonna be honest with you. First, I will say Rokash. Oh, hello. There it is. Rokash transferring his talents to anybody outside of Shay doesn't make sense. Um, the only other person Rokash likely would transfer his talent to would be Cass. But Cass also died, so again, doesn't make sense. So to have Rokash transfer his talent in the story at all, it's not right, right? You said you did not know Rokash had a sister. It's one of those implied things because Cass is his nephew. So if Cass is his biological nephew, Rokash has to have a sister. Um, Either way, we don't need Rokash or his talent coming back. We don't need it, but it's a cool concept that can work. I've already mentioned it in the Discord, so I'll bring it up here, and then I'll bring up things into relationship to what he says. So I like the idea of Anuant coming back only because the talent was cool, and I think a stronger user would also be cool. I also really like the idea of Rokash actually being a sort of mental living talent in the with the Anuant talent now. I think it'd be really cool. I'm not gonna lie. I think that concept is a very cool idea, bro. If anyone, I think it would create plot holes if anyone has Rokash talent. It wouldn't. There's no plot hole you can think of that Rokash that a talent reappearing would make. That's not how that works. There's no plot hole there. Um, I do like the idea of the talent reappearing, but it being a living talent with his spirit. Especially with the visual we see, that's actually kind of fire. So like, you know that scene where we see Shay walking towards Lath while he's chained up, but we see Ilios behind Shay with the spear in his hand. Imagine like a new user, and then like the silhouette is Rokash with that symbol that we see when he fights the Titans. That would be cool. That'd be cool. A female Anu Ankh user, yeah, she just has to do like she almost has to be even more important now than before. I'm lost on the mechanics of Rokash's spirit fusing with Anu Ankh as a living talent. Is there precedence of this? Oh, never mind the Great Four. Oh, okay. Um. So one way I did see Rokash's talent coming back, and I brought this up in the Discord like I think last year, maybe even like a year and a half ago. But it has to be done very intentfully, right? So the idea is that Anu Ankh is in a new user. I'm not gonna say the individual is somebody like Rokash's character, but the idea is that he looks up to Rokash from a triple MA standpoint, right? Like he has seen all of his past fights and he looks up to him, right? Maybe he's not the same type of individual, but there is that sort of connection that way, especially because he has his talent now, right? So there's that. But then we need the talent of Jacob Kim Lee, the character that Rokash killed, for this idea to work. So now we need another new character with a talent we never actually knew about, which would of course would also be as strong as Anu Ankh, right? And then we take these two characters, and it's not that they don't like each other, it's that their talents have history, so their talents don't like each other. And I think that concept would be way more interesting than the simple and typical I don't like you, you don't like me, right? It's sort of more of like a we always find ourselves butting heads, but I have no problem with you. I don't know why we always end up fighting, right? And it's because their talents have an underlying history that they don't know about. The reason I would do it like this is because it gives a reason to flashback into Rokash actually killing Jacob, right? And then we could have a sort of higher narrator. We could have a sort of higher narrator explain that in a rare occurrence, talents may kind of like the Great Four basically can have beef with each other, right? Something like that, right? So that way we kind of get a question that I think should have been answered in season one with Rokash's backstory in regards to Jacob Kim Lee and like him leaving the dojo. But then we also get a new concept, or I guess a concept that works with the grander characters of the series, but sort of minimalized to a specific set or pair in relation to characters we know of prior, right? I think this concept can work. The only problem is that yes, the concept can work, but to add it to the actual story, I'm not saying it doesn't fit. I'm just saying it would feel off. Like it would feel off. So like you could put it in season 4, you could put it in season 5 for like fun, but now we have to wonder what those characters would do in the story, right? You could also kind of do it as like a story ender. So like let's just say the series is over and now we have Tevin, who has opened his own dojo. Insert dojo name here, unless he goes for Red Ember again, doesn't matter. And now he is the individual who is taking care of like the youthful Kimyos in his time, right? So that way we have this new Rokash, an on wielder, this new Jacob Kimley's talent user interacting with Tevin, and then Tevin knows I don't even think Tevin knows the talent history, right? But then he's always like kind of at them because they're always butting heads, right? But it's because their talents have a history that he doesn't know about, that like the narrator and we as the readers actually do, right? I think that fits really good, but I don't want you to do anything more with that. Like I want it to end right there. Like I don't want us to did I already discuss Sabito versus Kofi? No, and I'm not gonna. I don't want anything else to go past that. We don't need anything more. We don't need anything more than that. We don't need like a continued story. All we need is a sort of new concept, right? Like a new concept, generational talent beef, because of past user history. You could almost even make it more personal by making both talents living talents, by having the spirits of both users. You could do that. It might be a little much, but it can work still, and it almost further adds to the overall talent beef. And then it also works with Tevin because Tevin is the one trying to train up their talents, a talent he has seen and fought against, and a talent he only knows of, I guess, or he only has he can only really research, right? So he's trying to train them up, and he's trying to improve their characters because they're always butting heads because of talent history. I think that concept works. I definitely think it works better as like a story extender, as opposed to like something introduced in the season. But you could do it. It'd be very meticulous, but you could do it while the series is running. There just has to be like a reason for those characters to still be around. Basically, like now they have to fight in the war. The only way I see them being a part of the actual series while it's running is if they are sort of members of Shay's faction, like Shay's faction, his grander faction, but they are two individuals who decide to join it, completely separate backgrounds, but they end up coming together because of their talent's history, and they're always butting heads because of their talent history. You could even take it as far as saying they don't like each other because of their talents, but their actual synergy when fighting another, or when fighting alongside each other, is spectacular, right? You can make their dynamic. I don't actually know of any characters like that. I would say Naruto and Sasuke, but they like get over their hate. by the time they have really good synergy. Actually, no, Naruto didn't like Sasuke when they fought Zabuza, and they had really good synergy then too. So yeah, you could kind of do it like that, basically. You could kind of do it like that. It's like, yeah, they butt heads and they don't like each other because of their talent's history, but when they fight somebody else together, it's almost like they're one being, right? I think that'd be really cool. And that's the only way I can see it working while the season is running. But I think it works better narratively for Tevin's character to kind of do it in relation to a dojo. But I think that works, right? Outside of that, Rokash's talent doesn't need to be in the story again. It doesn't serve a narrative purpose unless you do it the way I just described. And this kind of goes for like any talent that could reappear. Unless Anu comes back and is a Gaki adjacent, or yeah, is with a Gaki adjacent Kimyo, you could do it like that. But it's like at that point it's kind of like, why are we repeating the villain narrative with this talent, right? And again, like, not every talent needs to come back. Like, we don't need to see the Immortal Hide again. We don't need to see that talent again. The only other talents that actually like need or like would make sense to reappear is like Jin's talent, so we can kind of see more of it from an individualistic standpoint. Eric's talent, because he was a part of a family. Tandor's talent, kind of, because you genuinely could go like the Avatar route and just make a character like the Avatar. You could just make Aang in Ordeal and then actually have them be good, right? But his talent doesn't need to reappear, in my opinion. I don't think there are any other talents that I have to mention to explain my point. But yeah, I do think there's potential for Rokash's talent to come back, but in a very narratively impactful way, or something that just kind of adds to the series as a whole, conceptually. I wonder if these were uploaded like in reverse. And then we're gonna look at these two next. Actually, we might have to look at this one next. Wait, we can have a mixture of Rokash and Mad Dog from the raid for the new character. What's Mad Dog? Who's that? This lo-fi kind of serene right now. Hold up. I ain't heard this song before. Never seen the raid? No. Was that a story? Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Readers of Ordeal, I have a question for you guys. So obviously we guys know that Shay's about to head down this rolling path, and I have one question that's kind of gonna, like, I think throw things off the mix a little bit. Do you think Shay's gonna make a new wolf pack?
Yes, we already had that confirmed.
I mean, because it might seem like an obvious question at the start, but like when you really start thinking about it, like I wouldn't have him doing like all these decisions on
Actually,
his
no,
own.
I'm gonna pause this before I let the rest of it play. I think in my second to last stream where we looked at Brent's Q&A, we already know that the an Indonesian martial arts movie. Oh, that's interesting. I might have to look into that. Yeah, 2 streams ago, Brent already kind of confirmed that Shay's gonna have a new wolf pack essentially, and that their dynamic, or I guess their inspiration, is related to Taka from Naruto. So, But let's just keep going.
even though that's what like the Ronin is, but like having cameos that are good but still align themselves with him, align themselves with that sort of ideology that's kind of like a little bit more like grim, a little bit more negative, a little bit more ferocious, would make for a lot of, I think, good narrative moments when it comes to him, and also it makes another good full circle moment for when he comes back and possibly like comes back to that sort of like positive lifestyle to when he comes back to like Andrea and stuff. I do think a new Wolfpack would be cool, but obviously there's the problems of like you would need to find like a Wolfpack that's considerably filled with a good amount of heavy hitters that's on par with the old Wolfpack, which would be difficult as hell. Because I mean, with the other stuff you got working with now, that just leads into a whole like can of worms and stuff like that. And obviously you have signs that makes me think of this too, because like that flash forward we had with him with the little low cut and the Terminator arm and stuff, and he has a little moment with the girl that makes me think that either he's gonna like take her on as a protege, or he's gonna like assemble this new group that sort of supports this new ideal that's
Before we keep going, Shay also confirmed that he was making his own faction in the season. So there's that too. But let's keep going.
He sort of has when going into this Ronin lifestyle. And if there's anybody from the old pack that will follow him with his lifestyle, it's obviously Azam Aziz, because he's probably the best character and has the most identity of the Wolf Cubs. Like, bro, that's so easy. Especially like with the arc he's going through. I'm not saying like character comes with tragedy, but like the tragedy he's been through, it really has made like a good like identity and a good character for him compared to like all the other members of the Wolfpack and stuff. And I do think this would serve for a lot of good like narrative reasons, based on like based on the possible ideologies that these new Wolfpack members would have in comparison to like Shay Hart and what they would do for him narratively and stuff. Ironically, I'm saying that, but like coming after that, like that woman video that I made in terms of like what they can do for a male character and stuff. I'm not saying these people would be women, but like these would be obviously supporting characters. They just need to be written right. And this goes into what my original character would be, because like who doesn't have an original character for these pieces of work? Like if you want to immerse yourself in pieces of work, you would want to have an original character, but that's just gonna be for a later video, probably like the next one. But just let me know what you guys think, because obviously he can do all the stuff alone, and he can have these next couple of seasons like.
Okay, I don't think we need to watch anymore. So again, like I said, Shay already confirmed that he was gonna have a faction in episode 161 with Junie. We already have seen, at least we basically seen all the members who are going to be the immediate part of said faction, with that being Junie, the Ancient One, the girl, and the Midnight Robber. Am I missing somebody? And of course Shay himself, right? The way Brent described it is that their group is inspired by Taka, but I already kind of went over why it's not going to be a full 1-to-1. But Brent also mentioned that Shay can do everything by himself, but they choose to follow him, right? And he doesn't make anybody do anything, so they choose to follow him, and he basically doesn't shoo them away, right? I guess I think that's really the only way to describe it, and that makes a lot of sense when you look at how he interacted with the girl at the start of season 2 in the flash forward, where he saves them, and then she like basically pleads with him and says that she can help him. We don't know how that interaction continued, but I feel like it's in character to assume that Shay doesn't outright say yes, but doesn't outright say no either, and just kind of allows her to follow him, right? That makes sense. Yeah, everybody else, I mean, it's kind of confirmed. We already know who will be in it. The real question is how, like, what will they do, and what will they add to what will they add to not even Shay, but like the series as a whole? Like, I feel like Junie and the girl have something to add, and the ancient one, kind of, kind of. But like, what can the midnight robber add, right? Um, I definitely think that like family clan idea where clan members or like clan heads or like high ranking clan related individuals are like hunting Shay, um, and then the other members are like allowing Shay to keep going and doing what he's doing while they stay to fight, right? And this would make sense in character because I just said Shay, like, he doesn't force anybody to do anything, like they're choosing to do this, so he's gonna let them do it, right? um yeah, I think that can work. I think that can work because then it shows their character, kind of Shay's character, and then the family's character, right? Of course, very unlikely to happen, but um, the real overarching question is what do they add to the story? Like, what do they add as individuals? What do they add as a collective? Right? That basically or basically like what do they add that does more than Shay just simply being by himself? Right? You know what I mean? Um, you said you're gaining so much insight on character development. Hopefully I'm doing character development right. I think I have a very I just figured out how my side story ends for the main character at the very least, like how his plot ends. I haven't fully figured out like other characters' subplots. But I think the way he gets there and how he kind of progresses and then regresses and then progresses again, I think it really fits. I think it really fits, and of course, I haven't written it yet, but I'm hoping that the writing and the dialogue shows he's not the same as he was, especially like the sort of turning point for him. Um, yeah, that's sort of like the sort of turning point for him, um, and like how that will kind of come back later. I think it'll be really good, right? Um, especially since that scene, I know I'm being very vague, but that scene is supposed to show his growth. Like, it's supposed to show how far he's come from that specific prior moment. Hopefully I'm doing it right. But yeah, character development, it's kind of something I'm not something I'm always looking at now, but it's definitely something I'm peeping passively. Like, I'm always looking at how characters go from like how basically how characters like go from where they start to like where they end, right? Like, I just finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, definitely in my top 5 favorite anime of all time. Um and the way we kind of see somebody like even if in like a brief moment, Roy, where he has a very set character and a very set specific of ideals, and then it comes to a moment where his whole entire character can completely change based on one choice, right? But he has people around him to help him not make that choice and keep his character on the right path, right? um so yeah, that's definitely something I'm always like looking at. um you said, hope my series gets talked about like this, and you said it's called Dungeon Tamer. I like that name. Them Kagurabachi vids finna hit. Yeah. Wait, yeah, Dungeon Tamer. I read that as Dragon Tamer originally. Dungeon Tamer's cool. I don't think he gave any insight. Okay, he said it's about a boy who was born into an era where the Tamer class is seen as the weakest due to its resilience in one's beast. Oh, that says reliant. I'm dyslexic, I'm sorry. Due to its reliance in one's beast. All his life, the boy hesitates to fight till one day is forced to join in. Simplistic start. Very good. It's gonna be a one shot I enter in the Ink Bond contest this April. Hey, bro, I hope you win. I like the premise. I like the premise. We always like that underdog story. Okay, Miles said, on that topic, it's important to note Shay's reputation by that point in the Ronin era. He's super morally gray in the eyes of the common folk. He's mostly despised, yet there are outliers who like him. I'd imagine the Green Girl is one of the people who view Shay almost like how humanity viewed Leo after he took out Cain. Um, she described him as the perfect hero. Whether she was recalling that moment from her perspective, like that was a past moment that she's recalling, even though we're seeing it as a flash forward. That's a moment from her past she's recalling, which kind of makes sense with the dialogue. She does call him the perfect hero. So I think that can fit, kind of. There's a slight fear in that revere. Leo took out Cain, but in doing so, he took his place strength wise, and there will always be that lingering fear that he could hurt some people, although he never did, but that fear is irrational more than anything. You know? That's a pretty good point. I definitely think looking at how the characters will view Shay is definitely a good idea too, actually. Um, because like somebody like the Ancient One could look at Shay and see him as like a beacon of hope or a way to sort of end the grand fighting that exists in the world, which would fit with what he said to Shay. And then it's like Junie was already loyal to Shay, so I mean, I'm not saying we don't need to see how she views him, but you know, it's not the most important in comparison to like the others, right? Whereas like we know the girl sees him as like a hero, right? Um, and the Ancient One could see him as a way to stop the fighting, through whatever means necessary. And then the the Midnight Robber, he might be able to see Shay as a means to an end, which kind of fits Junie, but also not really. But also not really. He might see Shay as a means to an end, whatever that would look like. And while he's like family, or maybe he starts out having his own goal and he's only helping Shay to get his own thing done. Basically, he ends up enjoying his time with Shay and the others. He actually becomes a full-fledged member, right? Something like that can work. Um, It's my second comic. Wait, read it in Inkbound, available on Webtoon. Oh wait, one you can read is Inkbound, available on Webtoon. Maybe I can make Inkbound content. Is it on Canvas? Which one is it? Sorry, Jay, for the self promo. No, I'm not a hater. Or am I? No, I'm kidding. I think it's this one right here. I don't know why I paused it. It's not really paused. Oh, that's why I paused it. That's why I paused it. It's supposed to be proper audio levels. My fault. I know I just busted some of your eardrums. Okay, wait, hold on. We actually sort of saw how Junie viewed Shay through her dialogue with him as a weapon to smite Thanatos with, to use to sate her desire for vengeance for her fallen comrades. That's a good point. She comes off as a pushy and impatient when mentioning this to Shay. She wants him to focus in on smoking Thanatos. I wouldn't say it entirely. I wouldn't say it entirely. Because she's willing to wait for she's low-key going to, she's low-key right, like willing to wait for Shay to actually finish what he has to do in Trinidad before, you know, they focus on Thanatos' forces. My ears made me feel homicidal. Ears low-key gone. Wait, ears low-key gone. Time to pay for my treatment, Jay. Yeah, that's a big my bad. That's a big my bad. Big my bad. I'm still new to the streaming stuff, but I got an audio channel for like the background music, and then I have a separate one for this, right? So that it's not too loud, right? Like I have to, like, this is meant to like be adjustable audio based on what we're watching, but the background music is a set audio, right? So I don't change the levels of that one. But the way it works is that they're both, since they're both on the same window, they share somewhat the same audio channel, even if one is muted or like taken off the thingy. So when I played it, like it defaulted to this audio channel, which makes it louder. Okay, Inkbound has a prologue, episode 1 for now. Okay, yeah, okay, I seen that one then. I seen it. What's that miss? Oh wait. Well, I don't think she's using him as a means to an end. I think her allegiance will peter out or be less apparent when Shay isn't outright dealing with Thanatos, especially since he has his new group. I think she'll be a part of it. I hope. I think she'll be a part of it. I think what he'll have her do is be like the intelligence gatherer, so we can see less of her while she's kind of going around and getting information on things like that they'll end up doing, right? Especially when Shay is by himself initially and it's just them two. I think that'll fit really well. I want to know what this one's about. Is this a scaling video? Or is this a... I don't want to watch it just yet. I almost want to see what he'll say about this. I like his tattoo. He said 2027 Inkbound content. Wait, I missed it. What else did he say? Oh, too early. I'm still improving my art. Got you. Pretty reasonable. Pretty reasonable. The fact that you can't see my mouse right here is kind of funny. Pretty reasonable. I'm still trying to improve myself. I just finished one of the sections of the review. Not gonna lie, didn't realize how long it's gonna be. This shit might take 2 months. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm gonna be so honest. I still got like... Let's look actually. Let's look. Let's look together. Let's look. Alright, I finished this one. I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm done with like 3. So you'll know what I'll be doing when this stream is over. And I sadly have work tomorrow, which I wish I didn't. But at the same time, you gotta get your bread. You have to get your bread. I wanna watch this one actually. I wanna watch that one actually. Right, let's look at this one right here.
Ordeal readers, I'm back with another TikTok. I didn't think I was gonna make this, but
Wait, take as long as you gotta. This review will hopefully serve as a real basis for Brent to build off on next season. Hey, appreciate you, man. Shay is a fraud. Okay, I recently read Ordeal. I'm now up to date, and I'd like to go through the frauds and goats of the series. I've forgotten their names. Wait. I low-key wish he tagged the original poster. All right, let's look at this.
I've been tapping on Ordeal TikTok. I've been finding a lot of beautiful takes, beautiful beautiful people reading Ordeal, whatever. But I came across this one list, this list of goats and frauds in Ordeal. It was good at first until I seen one thing. They call Shay Hart a fraud.
Okay, let's read this. Shay, the third rank in the fraud allegations, lost a few people. Hell, lost only his sensei and what else? His mother and father? He started acting all edgy and Batmanish. His elder brother figure died, and all he could think of is to nuke Abel in expense of someone else. In expense of someone and people he loves. Basically, his mentality, I don't want to lose any loved ones, so I just see the enemy and kill him with my loved ones. This guy is straight up stupid. I so much hate his character. Brent didn't transition him well. That's true. Bro blames himself. Yes, but this route completely makes no sense. Brent basically did this for the aura. He would have given a real reason for him to be this way. Like his sister dying because of code or an Abel war. That's kind of fair, but not really. Your scripts look like mine, super long but detailed. Yeah, I always segment them and section them out. All right, before we get into his take, this part is weird. Lost a few people. Hell, lost only his sensei and what else? Okay, so by nature, Shay has lost his mother and father, who he outright doesn't remember. He almost lost his sister. He lost his actual father figure. He lost his second father figure, and then he lost his brother. And then not only did he almost lose Yukiko, he actively wishes he was present in Trinidad so that he could have stopped the bombing from taking place, right? So like, there's that. I mean, the way Shay's character is set up, that makes sense. The second part, basically his mentality, I don't want to lose any loved ones, so I just see the enemy and kill him with my loved ones. This is specific to one episode and not the entirety of how Shay operates. We know that because Shay directly created the Blue Flames to outright protect people on his side. So, yes, but also no. Like, yes, but also no. Just make sure that if you say something like this, you know it's specific to one episode or to one instance, and that he hasn't done things like this the entire time, basically. Brent didn't transition him well. I agree with this. This is true. This is something I already mentioned. He blames himself. This is just a part of his character. This is natural. But his route completely makes no sense. I don't think it doesn't make sense. I just don't think in story there's a valid reason for him to be by himself. Outside of his own choice, I don't think there's much of like a reason for him to basically leave everybody else's side, in my opinion. I'll say that. Unless it was already in his character, which it kind of is, but not really. Actually, I shouldn't even say it isn't. It is actually in his character. It's been in his character since season 1. Shay could probably live with Leo, but he doesn't. He could most likely live with Leo, but he doesn't. And then he works as a fighter to provide for himself and his sister. But he lives by himself, right? And he doesn't let anybody else in. So Shay being alone is actually very consistent since the start of the series. He trains by himself. In theory, Bjorn could have trained somebody like Kong with Anton because of Kong's actual talent, right? Sort of that god tier snap decision. So he could have trained them both, but he only trained Shay, and it's okay. So Shay was by himself during the training, and then he was by himself again during the training between season 2 and season 3. And then he lost Lewis and was by himself again, right? Intentionally. Am I missing another instance? I don't think so. I mean, Shay fought Kaguya with the Cubs, and then he fought they all by himself. So I mean, maybe that doesn't add to it, but I think the notion is there, right? Right. You could kind of say it's there. What's up, Dragon King? Uh, the point of Shay's crash out is that it's the building up of years of feeling helpless despite training his ass off. He did solo training for 8 months, cut off from all his fam, and lost one of them anyway. This is rage bait. No sense in the comment. Doing your best but still fail is tough. Yeah, that's how I feel when I lose in Tekken. Wait, yeah, you could tell him it's Engaimeki's fault for being unable to save Lewis, but even then, we see from Shay's combo with Andrea that everything is his fault because of his words. Wait, all who fell that day did so because I don't express the strength I ought to have. Just read the pro in episode 1. Art improved and can't wait to see more Scout. And shout out to Nocturnal. W support. W community support, man. Alright, let's keep going.
Reasons being, 1, he did not have any or enough reason to nuke everybody at that one instance, which I think is correct. So we're going to take that reason and put it off to the side. All right. We just going to disregard that. I'm not, anything that I state, we'll not be talking about that. The second one was, he does not have enough reason to be going on this running path, to be doing this quote unquote Batman and edgy stuff.
What's happening, or rather, what's the context for the reaction? So shout out to Dio Scamo again. Oh, for the entirety of the stream, we've been looking at some of his videos on TikTok, seeing his takes and his opinions on certain things, and then kind of interceding on how I would do things or my viewpoints on things. Right now, we're looking at a video where he mentioned somebody said that Shay is a fraud. I just kind of dissected this dialogue a second ago, so I'm not saying go back, but you could pause the stream and read this, right? Or you could even, go to TikTok, search this up, and you can watch the video yourself, right? To get the full context, but essentially he disagrees with Shay being a fraud, so I think he's gonna dissect why he doesn't agree.
I think this is where we need to separate the reader's mindset versus a realistic mindset, because we watch all of this shonen anime, manga, manhwa and stuff. We get desensitized to some of the traumatic stuff. Like, okay, yeah, we know. We've seen Itachi, we just seen Maki, okay. But realistically think about some of this stuff, all right? Obviously, we already got introduced to Shay in a depressing state because, bro, if you have to slum it out in a world with superpowers and you don't have superpowers, what? Then you got to fight in a fight club against said people with superpowers getting your ass beat? Bro, what? But let's play a game. Let's play Swear to God, all right? Swear to God, you wouldn't crash out if you was living to like 4 or 5 or 6 with your parents. Your parents go off and they don't come back.
I don't know.
And you come to find out they died in a shootout. They was hunted down and your father was protecting your pregnant mother for 3 days straight against an army of goons.
And what's crazy, when Shay finds out that information, he doesn't even know that May is pregnant. He just knows that the Goonies caught Sabito and May lacking. And Vayal is the reason, basically, right? He doesn't even know that she was pregnant, which is even crazier, until basically season 3, right? You said you'll watch the VOD later. Hey man, the VOD will always be up after. That's why I stream on YouTube and not Twitch, because I like when the VODs are up. I can slap some ads on there, and it's basically a free video for everybody to watch if they feel like it.
Swear to God, you wouldn't crash out. Next one. Swear to God, you wouldn't crash out if your old, technically second father figure, but mentor, took a bullet to the stomach from one of the lamest people in the series and died because of that.
Reasonable
and
crash.
He gives you the talent. So every time you use the talent, you think of him. Swear to God, you wouldn't crash out. No? Okay. Swear to God, you would not crash out if you find out your sister almost perished in a terrorist bombing geared against her race and what she is.
Now that is probably the most reasonable crash on the list. It's probably the most reasonable crash on the list. Because I say that because Shay already felt guilt for not being present when Leo died, right? But then he passed on his talent. I feel like I'm not gonna say he got over it, but he kind of got over it, right? And they get their revenge, right? But Shay wasn't even around for what happened to Yukiko. And while it happened, like he was fighting for his life somewhere else. So, and the thing is that he wouldn't have been able to do much against Rakash anyway. But him being there might have felt better, right? But again, Leo also gave Shay his talent, so there's a little bit of like not less reason to crash, but they had plans to avenge Leo anyway, right? But you're telling me my sister almost died, and then everybody else that was around her basically did, and I was miles away fighting for my life? I would crash too. This is a reasonable crash. Right? This is a very reasonable crash.
And additionally, swear to God, you wouldn't crash out if after you find that out, you find out that your man's fiance actually did die in that. And the way you find out is that you come to the room and you look and he is holding what is left of her.
Very reasonable crash again. We literally see the panel where Shay walks out from talking to the doctor and like whispering in Yukiko's ear, and there's just a room full of bodies, and then Azam is bawling, weeping, crying because his lover is dead. And he was gonna crash that same episode. And if Mahalalel didn't stop him, he probably would have blew up the building. Like the same thing that he did to everybody, like intentionally, he was gonna do that to them on accident, off of just pure anger, right? Abijah and Minamoto would have had to do that, like that scene where the Jonin and Naruto had to stop Neji from killing Hinata, or when in Black Clover, Asta, Magna, and I think his name is Luck, had to stop Fenrir's brother from offing him, right? You know what I mean? Like they would have had to do that to calm him down, basically. Very justified crash out. Okay, wait. And add to the fact that 2 god tiers and their hands were on the premises and still didn't prevent the bombing, and Shay's crash out gets way more justified. Indeed. The black hair character with the sword and dragon tattoo called Dragon with the Dark Flame? That's what that's called? Alright, let's keep going.
You wouldn't crash. Swear to God, bro. Swear to God, bro. Let's keep going. Swear to God, after all that, you found another mentor figure. You trained for months with him. You start looking up to him. You start gaining that connection with him. Oh no. The same person that is orchestrating you, your parents getting slimed out, comes back and he slimes him on some greasy stuff. Because in all of these fights, this man would have lost in a 1v1. So this person causing you all this pain, your dad would have beat him, your second mentor would have beat him, and you would beat him in a 1v1 if y'all got your hands on him. I swear to God, you wouldn't crash over that, bro. No? Okay, let's add a little small one. Okay, so the guy, you wouldn't crash out if you went back to your hometown and y'all have a little mission for a briefcase filled with the remaining talent of your dead mother. So everyone,
which is crazy, by the way. That's crazy. Shay learns of what the life and death boxes actually are, and then he has to go and protect them, and he can't even like justifiably want it to be used, right? Right? He just has to listen to Aldridge's plan, basically, and then he can weigh in who he would want to have it if he basically got to choose, right? Which was Ian. But like even the concept of just knowing that the only thing that's left of your mother is her spinal fluid kept in a vial that the bad guys want is outrageous. It is outrageous. So not only do you barely remember your mother, the only thing that exists outside of you and your sister from her is her spinal fluid. Egregious, very egregious. And there's nothing you can do. There's basically nothing you can do about it. Like Code's law prevents Aldrich from using it, so he basically orchestrated a plan to ensure that what remains of his sister, Shay's mother, actively lives on, as opposed to just sitting in a fucking briefcase forever. You know what I mean? So Shay got to kind of choose, but imagine the plan didn't go their way. Imagine the plan didn't go their way. So now he would have even more reason to crash because the thing that they're protecting fell into the enemy's hands anyway. But let's keep going.
in the city going crazy over this briefcase that has basically the last remnants of your mother in it. Swear to God, you gonna crash out.
Very justified.
Let's do another one. Swear to God, you wouldn't crash out if your 10 out of 10 Trinidadian fiance lost her arm in the middle of this war because she was fighting a satanic level threat in a war that was basically because of you. Swear to God, you wouldn't crash out if after all this time you was growing up alone basically with your sister, you find out you have family, you have a clan.
That's not that
On top of figuring out you got a clan, you figure out you was the vessel of Satan.
That's justified. That info dump is basically justified anger. Like, he went his whole life hardly remembering his parents, experiencing pain, and then he finds out that the reason he was in pain was because his mother removed the talent that he had, with the talent he had being the incarnate of earthly evil, basically. A representation of active death on the plane of the world. Shay being angry for not knowing that until like right now, kind of justified. Like, you can understand why it's a kept secret, but at the same exact time, you also, like, at some point it would make just as much sense if Leo actually told him how the truth of his birth, right? That could honestly have led to Shay understanding how his body works and the chi that comes from it potentially a lot sooner. He could have had access to his body's chi much sooner. I don't think he could use it actively and it'd be passive, but who knows, right? He could have learned rock armor sooner. He could know chi shrouding, like all of these concepts, right? But who knows, right?
What? Swear to God.
I like this piano.
You wouldn't crash out if the same man who has been doing all of this stuff that you would therefore cook in a 1v1, so therefore he is a lame to you. This same lame caught your man's lacking. They get into a scuffle. You get there too late and you find your man's with 2 swords poking through him. And he is gone. And correct me if I'm wrong, you have to be the one to burn him to ashes?
No. He didn't have to burn him to ashes. He just washed him. I'm pretty sure the fire at the funeral was just regular fire. Unlike previously where um Shay did actually ignite the torch that was used to burn Elon Sr.
Tell me, swear to God, you wouldn't crash out. Swear to
He
God.
said, "Now the god tier would be on Shay like how the Hollow Squad was on Ichigo and in Bleach." I like that idea.
You
That's a
would
good one.
not go down this path that Shay is going down for a fraction of the stuff that I have listed. If that has realistically happened to you, please. And for other people watching, let me know what y'all think. Play Swear to God with us too.
That's funny. I like his take on this. And I like the idea of him saying that you have to look at it from a less desensitized standpoint and more of a what if this actually happened to you? Like be realistic with how you would react in a situation. Like me personally, I'm already reacting horrible off the fact that my sister almost died. I barely remember my parents. I'm probably I don't think I would react the same way if Leo died if I was Shay. Like if I was I should say if I was me in Shay's position, I don't think I would react the same. But I would still have like that justifiable urge for vengeance. I feel like I would still have that same sort of like, you know. Um I definitely think if I got close to Bjorn over the span of a month and then he died, basically protecting me and everybody else, I'd probably scream in the middle of the freaking field too. I'd probably scream and be sad too. And then on top of that, I can't even like grieve because immediately following Bjorn's death, they have to wonder where Andrea is and what's going on with Tevin, right? So in the following episodes, they have to go and find Andrea and bear witness to her getting mobbed and basically battered by this undead monster, right? I'm crashing off that alone. Like, you know how Ilios was trying to calm Shay down and say like he can't fight anymore because he's about to run out of chi. I feel like I would be on the same timing. At that point, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Like I gotta fight with whatever I got left. You know, like I have to. I definitely think me personally, I think I'm crashing more off the potential fact that my sister would have died. Like I think for me, I think the idea of my sister dying and I wasn't even close to being able to protect her, that shit would hurt. And then what makes it worse, not like worse, like for situations that even if Shay was there, the way Ilios describes it is perfectly put because like what would he have done? Like he can't stop the bombing because he doesn't know about it. Like he only knows about it because it happened, but like they don't know that the bombs are under the stadium. None of the god tier know. None of the hands know. None of the civilians are like able to hear the ticking because the freaking explosions are basically placed underground in a separate dimension. So like even if Shay was there and like ushering in and protecting Yukiko, let's just say he escorted her inside and he didn't have to wear a freaking talent wrist thingy, right? He didn't have to because of who he is, right? Shay's body and his fireproofness is not going to stop Yukiko from being engulfed in flames, basically, right? If she didn't have a talent, I should say. Well, actually, if she didn't have Hisame, basically, and she had some other talent, right? Like let's just say she wasn't the one who had Hisame, right? In this example, but of course she did. Um, but even still, like again, if she wasn't, if she didn't have Hisame, and she had a weaker talent, there's no guarantee that Shay being there and trying to like cover her with his body would help. Me personally, I would crash off of that. Like that, I feel like that's crash worthy. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave bro's TikTok alone. Again, shout out Dioscamo. Appreciate the 2 hours and 24 minutes worth of content. I'm not gonna lie, W content thief. I appreciate you, gang. Y'all go follow bro. I think his take, I think he had pretty decent takes. He has a little bit of error. Where was it? A little bit of error here, a little bit of error here, but I think his takes here, he definitely should have reread before he made this one, because the story kind of answers the question he's answering. But his take here and his take here, these ones are good. Maybe check out some of his other videos. Do or don't. That's up to y'all. I think this was a good section of the stream though. What are we gonna talk about next? Who knows? Who knows? Oh yeah, I started at 6. Or no, not 6. 3:30. I'm tripping. Oh, hold on. Let me switch the let me put the music back for y'all. Actually, let me pause it real quick. Take this off and then go back and play right there. I think that was a pretty good section. Since the stream is related to concepts, let me look at my story real quick and see if there's any concepts I can like share that I think would be cool in story as well. One thing I think we like almost need to see is to see 1 or 2 other scattered Heart Clan members. I think that would really add to kind of Johan's like stance, Nico's stance on Shay and Yukiko. And it would be really interesting if, kind of like Johan, they were battle-hardened individuals, right? But a little bit better, and definitely more katana-oriented. I think that'd be fire. The reason I say that is because in my main cast for my story, one of them, actually 3 of them technically, are Heart Clan members, right? 3 of them are Heart Clan members. And it would have been kind of nice to get the massacre this season, but I don't think it fits the most. But I do have a plan to actually write the massacre from his perspective. So, so when we get that, I'm not saying I'll immediately write it, but I definitely will have more knowledge on like how to go about doing it from another character's perspective, right? A non-canon character who actually like made it out, right? I think that's cool. And it's a lot cooler. It would also make sense if one of them had a talent, but they don't have to be. They don't have to be Kimyo's. They don't have to be Kimyo's. Another good concept. I definitely need that Tevin Elon Jr. training interaction. Like, I need it. It fits so well. It feels like it's one of those things where it's like, you know, when you're connecting dots, like when you were a kid and you're like doing those connected dot art thingies, it's like going from 1 to 2. Like, instead of going from like 1 to like 67, you should go from 1 to 2. It's so easy. It's free. It's such a free concept to play around with, and it fits so well. You got the blueprint already set. Actually, speaking of, we definitely need to see more of Ian, but I'm not really sure where or how I would use him in the story now. I think if he was gonna get used, I guess like in a more proper way, even outside of a fight, it would have been this season. Not saying his talent is like a little letdown, but I will talk about him in the actually I do talk about him in the review. I have a plan to bring him up again though, so he'll get mentioned a couple times. Yeah. I'm excited, bro. Hopefully Brent can lock in, man. Hopefully Brent can like actually lock in. Also, I'll give you a little like hints. Oh, let me put the background music on. I'll give you a little hint. This is like all the stuff I have for my story. I'm actually gonna reorganize something like this right here, but I got like all of these. These are like all like chapter long things, basically, right? You know, um, I'm currently right here. I'm currently right here, and then I will be like, this is so the timeline goes like pre-season 1. Like these two are kind of season 1. This is like a mix of pre and season 1, both of these. This is season 2. This is season 2. Or like the I guess like the space of time between season 1 and then all of season 2, basically, right? This is the space of time before season 3, and then this is actually season 3. This is the potential 2 years gap between season 3 and season 4, and then this is like the ending space. This is like the time period after. This is the time period after, right? And then this is afterward. It's afterward, right? He said, "How the hell is Code finna get corrupt if Ian is around? Assuming that Code would be in charge of him now that he's a Kimyo. Well, he's likely. I'm not gonna say he's free reign to kind of do whatever he wants, but I mean, Aldrich set him free, or at the very least, he was convinced to let him free. So, from how I'm seeing it, he's kind of like a strong Kimyo that resides within Trinidad. I think there could be a sort of. Actually, no. It doesn't make sense for him to break protocol. It doesn't make sense for him to like just simply follow orders because he broke protocol technically. So, but I don't think he'll be close to where Code could become corrupt. I think the sort of corruption is more like downsides, like it's not from the top, but now it's from the bottom, right? Now it's the individual soldiers and people, like certain captains, certain sergeants and lieutenants who are more corrupt, right? And more power hungry and power thirsty, as opposed to Anton and the rest of the members that sit as the code heads, right? And that's how it should be, because you can't really. I mean, I guess you could introduce code heads who are like really bad people, but it doesn't fit for what code is, right? It doesn't fit. And then we have Anton's still around, and we have Joanne, who's experienced as a head. So I feel like those voices would kind of outweigh any sort of evil that can come from this potential new code, right? I don't think it can work that way. I don't think it can work that way writing wise, and I think that it can't work that way character wise. Yeah. What we can do with Ian? What can we do with Ian? Honestly, if Ian is present during a Gaki fight, that might be kind of fire. I just don't know which one. Actually, the only one that makes sense right now is Roberto. But Brent already has who fights who set, so I'm not actually sure if Ian will be present for something like that. However, you can introduce you can introduce other god tier characters to kind of give someone for Ian to fight. Basically, you can do that. Like, it wasn't hard for Brent to make basically a tier just below Gaki, which I will consider captain, and then they can basically achieve the base level strength of a Gaki, right? So it's not hard for more characters like those to exist and actually be fights. I made one myself for my story, of course. I already know how he's going to fight. I already know how he's like what his plan or like what his like mission is. What I don't have set is how he loses or if he loses fully set. I know I want other characters in relation to him and his subordinate to win, but I don't know if I want him specifically to win. It feels more like KCG specific corruption than code corruption at this point. Yeah, I agree with that. Especially because of what we saw from episode, was that 46, 45? I think it's 45. Where it's the KCG members specifically. He said, you calling it a night? See you next stream. Hey man, appreciate you for being here. See you in the next one. Yeah, I guess you could make Ian sort of like the Trinidad code asset that just works alongside the Greyhounds more permanently, and then basically every threat to code or every threat to Trinidad is like if they're above a certain tier level, they have to fight him now, right? And then what you could also do is you could have the Greyhounds help other countries like they did with the Venezuelan border, because they were literally requesting the Greyhounds help. So you could also do that as well, and then have somebody like Ian fight a high-class Cameo there. It doesn't even have to be a associated with Thanatos. He could just you could almost do a sort of like Leo Minamoto with a Night Nocturnal. You could almost do a Leo Minamoto, but with Ian in another god tier or another like god tier level individual, right? I think that fits as well because of who Ian actually is. Oh, you know what? I think another really good way to not use Ian, I guess, but I guess just another concept that can be explored is the other Patmos guards that integrated into society. Ian is one of 3, so there's 2 others out there who are who knows where doing who knows what, and I think it would be kind of cool if we had like maybe Ian, maybe some other character interact with him. You know what I mean? It would also be interesting if like let's just say one of them was actually working for Thanatos now, right? And then he got like a forced talent transfer, so now he has a talent that he didn't have originally. The only problem with that is that it kind of goes against what they are to begin with, right? Like they are Patmos guards, and the way, what's his name? Sir Horseman? I think that's his name. Sir Horseman like talks. It's like they're almost racist. Like they're like just above the line from being racist. But we do have somebody like what's his name? Abel, who puts his like beliefs aside and uses the power of Kimil, right? So you could almost do something like that too, but with a Patmos guard, right? I think that could work in theory. Just a little messy. Maybe lo-fi. Actually, you know what I could do? Let me look at this real quick. I could do a whole stream about this actually. I was gonna look at the Reddit, but now that I'm here, I don't actually like what I'm seeing. So I don't actually like what I'm seeing, not gonna lie. I'm a little disgusted. I agree with this. Actually, hold on, wait. Look at this. I agree with this. This is funny. Let's look up the newest. Reddit is cursed plain indeed. 10 hours ago, 23. Okay. I saw this earlier. It's just like an odd concept in my opinion. Would y'all be mad if a god tier died off screen? That's a good question, actually. Would I be mad if a god tier died off screen? Yes. Yes, I would. Hold up, they gonna mention me right here? Oh, there it is. Oh, Nara mention. Oh, Nara mention. Oh, you want to start one? Go ahead, G. Well, let's look at this glaze real quick. Jay the God tier is a very good source. There are more others in which I forget their name, but he got the best quality content. Hey, appreciate you, Zealous. I'm not sure what that says right there. Hawk74, Jay the God tier, Dante's Library, Manhwa Odyssey, Wolf Nara, and the Otaku Fix / Code Archives. Look, he put Nara twice. It would be worse if Zuri died off screen. Yeah, that's actually funny. Jay the God tier and Code Archives, and then I recommend Jay the God tier and Code Archives. They are really good at explaining not only the power system and fights, but also the references in regard to the theme pertaining to fate and choices. Hey, appreciate the glaze. Now, would I be mad if a God tier died off screen? Absolutely. And the reason is because we don't know these niggas. Like, I don't know any of them yet, so it's almost like killing them wouldn't be bad, but at the same time, it's like, why were they introduced in the first place if you were just gonna kill them off screen? That doesn't make sense. The way it's kind of laid out is that Brent is gonna keep all of them alive except for this nigga. We don't know about him. All of them alive until he actually gives them their fights properly. So which means we're not really gonna see too many God tier be replaced, I think. We know Tevin becomes a God tier, so Tevin, I'm not gonna say he could replace Kofi, but like this whole spot is basically gone now. And if Kofi, even if Kofi and Sonya live, they could retire. So that leaves two spots basically. That leaves a hand spot and a royal spot. So you could shimmy Tevin in there. I don't think nobody else died. Yeah, so you could shimmy Tevin in there somehow. But to have any of them fight off screen, it's almost like a why didn't you just kill them this season instead, right? Like we could have got Reed against the Roberto, and he could have died right there, right? He could have like fodderized him right there, right? But to kill them off screen doesn't feel proper. It doesn't feel right because we don't know anything about them yet. We don't know their talents. We don't know how Leo affected their beliefs. We don't know shit. We don't even know how old each of them are. Like, we gotta know a little bit more before any of them die. The next person who could die, like Mikhail dying this season wouldn't have been bad because of what was established, but he's basically the only exception of any of them dying. Actually, I wouldn't be mad if he died, but I still want to know what his talent is beforehand. This I agree with. Is this AI? I think that is AI. This I agree with. I mentioned this. I think I mentioned this myself. I think I mentioned this in a review. I think I mentioned this in a review. Yeah, she should know basic swordsmanship. She should have a sword on her person. It fits her character. It fits where she comes from. It reflects her relationship to Sabito. Like, this should just not be the case. And I even made the video about Andrea fighting them, and I basically made this point, like, we don't know what she's capable of unless she can teleport her sword in. She basically don't got nothing, and then it was proved by Brent. Brent was, and this is what I mean by sometimes I feel like Brent is writing to what I'm saying. So he basically said, yeah, you know what, you're right. She can't do shit. And it's like, nigga, why? You didn't have to do it like that. The next code head, you know the rules, don't you, little girl, to use... Wait, the use of talents is strictly prohibited, but you three doing so in public is a mockery of our authority. Hold on. There must be some more here. That's it? That was it? Oh wait, I have a theory that the horse might be the next head of code. This is crazy. One, he's human, which Brent confirmed. Two, it fits better for him to stay in his KCG role. 3, it almost makes more sense for Anton, Joanne to be a code head, or Aldrich's potential son. This theory has like no merit. It doesn't have any merit. Full power Bjorn versus Shay forms. Okay. Base form, no weapons. These are the same. These are the same. So we can combine these two, and then Ronin Shay. In all honesty, I don't think Shay's surviving the hammer. So basically, it's like a, does Shay get one tapped or not? Question mark. Is that what it is? Because that's all this does. Ronin Shay, no. You might be able to argue that the shield can block the hammer. You might be able to argue it. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but if you made an argument, I can see why you would say that. The thing about Shay is that, like, outside of the states in the Ronin, like, these are the same, bro. Like, this is the same nigga. Like, his fighting style is slightly different, but he still has the same power level. So, are we actively accounting for his, like, how much power he's actually portraying? Because everything he did here, he can do here. Like he can use the shield. He can still use the shield if he wants to. He could just make a Contio, and then he basically has a weapon. He could use the same amount of Tomas that he did here. Like, it's the same. Like Shay's forms are basically just him. It's like, how does he choose to fight here, right? The fact that Shay and Tevin relationship is so bad during the Ronin era that Shay just attacks Tevin instantly on seeing him. I did not want to do all that. This is true. This is kind of crazy. It's a little crazy. Thanatos and Abel really have the chance to be really great villains. I agree. He didn't really say anything, but I agree. Fun fact, Shay didn't actually, I don't care. Okay, full power Vayal and versus Shay forms. This is a little bit more interesting. But Vayal basically loses to, like, either of these versions, like any of these versions. Again, these are the same, so he basically loses to, wait, full power? Okay, hold on, maybe I might have to take that back. Let's go, let's just say, what's up, normal? Let's just say, this is about to be so funny. Theoretically, wouldn't Bjorn just win against any non-Zahara fire Shay has, since he has the immortal hide? I mean, he still has to run out of chi. Like, he still has to use chi to use it. So if Shay can burn Bjorn for long enough, the hide will fall, right? This is the same principle that kind of Vayal mentioned, because the hammer was draining his chi. So basically, like, he would run out of chi, and then his hide would fall, and then the hammer's backlash would kill him, right? So that concept still applies. So if he runs out of chi, he won't have any chi for the hide. So then it comes to a stamina battle, and Shay already has a known stamina feat, but he should almost technically have infinite stamina. Almost. That doesn't mean he can't get tired technically, but he does like have infinite chi through his body. So full power cash or full power Veil. Give it to one of these two. War State is the same as Anointed State. I thought Anointed State was stronger than Standard War State. No, it's exactly the same. The only difference between War State and Anointed War State is that the armor is gold due to God actively blessing it, because it's a sign of him accepting of the fight and accepting of the fight that Shay's in. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have to word it like that, right? This is something Brent told me outright, but he puts it in the story, like it's in the story technically, but you could imply that that's not the case based on how it's shown. But yeah, these are exactly the same. This is why when he fights Rajani, it's not gold, but when he fights Jose, it is gold. Like the gold coincides with what happens in 117 with the loud statement, right? But like she doesn't really make any sort of prayer or any sort of like, this isn't something like God fully desires for him to do. This is something Shay is actively doing for himself, right? That's the real difference between the two. You could honestly even, I'm not gonna say base form. I mean, Shay was willing to fight. Basically, was willing to fight Veil. Even like the past this version of Veil in base. So I'm not gonna lie, Shay might not need War State to do decent damage against Veil, even at full power. Before he got to like this point, Bjorn did damage him with Vinter. So Shay, in theory, should be able to do the same thing. Yeah. We've already seen what Shay can do in base. Like, this is why I don't really consider any of the forms like that different from each other, because what he did in base against Thanatos basically proves how strong he actually is without his state. Like, he don't really need this shit, bro. Like, this nigga's cooked, bro. Like, he's cooked. Like, base form, base weapons, like, it almost depends on how Shay wants to nerf himself. Right? Does Shay want to use fire? Who knows? Does Shay want to just thug it out in rock armor and straight hands? Like, then that's really where the caveats come in. But Shay, at any point on here, beats him, and it's bad. This is funny. All right, is Elon Jr. our potential man? Meet replacement man. Always will be and can master, but never is. They call him 002. 0 feet, 0 potency, 2 dead father figures. I mean, his cousin isn't his dad, so that's inaccurate. Give him screen time and make him a rival to Yukiko. Have him be a tragic for Veil to attack and give his clan and get his clan wiped. Both of these things can happen though. Like, I don't know why he did it like that. Both of these things can happen, and neither of them have happened. So this is also weird. He'll be as strong as Lewis Trust. He'll be strong as New Gen. He'll get his revenge on Veil. I don't know who's saying this. This shouldn't even be the case. This should be the case based on if he properly trains with Tevin, in my opinion. Give me liberty, give me fire, give me more. Deal relative or I retire. I don't get this. I disagree with this though. There's no real way to show how Elon Jr. will be used in the coming seasons. He definitely has potential. But like, and especially like something like this, like he can rival Yukiko if done properly. Maybe not fully, but like maybe at like a more base level or something. Actually, you could even say Death Stance can help him rival Yukiko, right? In theory. But yeah, I mean, Yukiko also has a head start from what we know. Like, we don't really know of any of Elon Jr.'s sort of training, but he could, in theory, maybe use the memories of his family, potentially, to like kind of bolster his own experience. But even if that were the case, then Loki would is the same. So this is a good picture. So I don't really agree with this. This doesn't really make the most sense to me. But again, it's a meme, so let's pretend we all laughed at this. Rank them based off strength potential. Okay. I would put him at the bottom. He's at the bottom. I don't think I need to justify why he's at the bottom. He is a Gaki, and he should have Chi on par with at bare minimum Sonya, right? He's also a biological son of Veal, however that works. If that does add a buff, it feels like it adds a physical buff. If we look at it based off talent, his talent lost to Abijah. His talent is new, but he already has God tier level Chi, and her talent rivaled Veal. So if we're kind of going based off that, I would put her at the top, then him, then him, then him. That doesn't feel super inaccurate either. Especially because these two are kids, so they have, by nature, more potential to actually grow than him, in my opinion, right? That's just me though, right? And he was already the youngest cub before she became a cub, right? So his potential is good, but I don't really know how we really grow his talent from here. Whereas these three have more clear routes, and then we already know she has a whole other secret form that just makes her that much stronger when it's used, right? And then again, he already has God tier level Chi, right? So he's already strong, and then he can get 7 years of like actual experience on top of that, and then he could literally rival Veal if done properly, right? He could rival Veal if done properly. Again, Yukiko's talent by nature already rivaled Veal. Yeah. It already rivaled Veal. I was trying to think if it rivaled anybody else, but he's the only metric we have for Hisame's strength. And so if Hisame can somewhat rival Veal when used by Sabito, and Hisame and Veal's talent has Chi comparable to Ilios, then she should have close to G4 levels of Chi. She should have maybe some of the closest levels of Chi to the Great Four, right? You might not like that, like the way I kind of had to chain that, but I think it makes sense, right? It does make sense. Again, he already has God tier level Chi, so you could change these two, however, but either way it goes her and then him, or him and then her, and then these two, and then him and then him. And especially because his talent isn't a God tier level talent, whereas his talent does have the potential to enter the God tier ranks, and then he already has God tier levels of Chi, and then her talent has also been in the God tier ranks, right? So yeah, I think this is kind of fair. Using who their talents kind of connect and are related to, you can put them first and second, whichever. And then using who his talent is in relation to and who we know they fought, you could put him third, and then he is outright last. Especially because even though their talents correlate to a stronger Veil, especially her, his correlates to a weaker Veil, right? But yeah, I think this is fair. That seems fair. Don't care. Okay, full power Kofi. This is kind of fun. Full power Kofi versus Shapeforms. Yeah. This is kind of funny that we did War State Purple Flames. Again, Shay wipes, like Shay wipes. Shay was already a good hand-to-hand combatant, so even without a weapons, he still has all of his firepower. Plus, again, he can make a Conceal. This is in character. This is in character for him to make a Conceal even without like saying no weapons is, in my opinion, it's basically the talent weapons, but a Conceal and like the shield, I feel like it's a part of the talent, so it doesn't count, right? It doesn't count. So he can still make the shield, in my opinion, unless you don't want to give him that. But again, he was a pretty good hand-to-hand combatant beforehand. at least among the Cubs. And then he has Ilios on top of that. Actually, a really good metric and like way to scale, I guess maybe not the most accurate, but like the way to scale Shay's ability to fight hand to hand is actually the the collab with Street Fighter. The way Brent depicts Shay not fighting with the weapons but bare hands and just Ilios is kind of good, in my opinion. I can low-key look that up maybe on another stream, if it worked. The way it's structured, I don't like the way it works, but I think that's a good depiction of Shay fighting without any weapons at all and just using Ilios. But again, he still has like all the firepower. So he has all the firepower to make a Tomas the size of a mountain and then blast Kofi with it, right? Or he could make 3 Tomases the way he did against Jose in this fight. And again, blast Kofi with it. Like, I think Shay's attack potency is just too high above Kofi for him to really do much, right? He'll be able to resist his radiation. I think we don't even know how good Kofi is with like rock armor, but Shay can Chi Shroud. Well, maybe not anymore because of the Thanatos Chi, but he does have a really good use of the rock armor technique, which I'll talk about in my review. At least the technique at a base, not necessarily in relation to Shay, kind of. But there's really nothing Kofi can do against Shay. In my opinion, like, you might be able to say that Twin Spear and Rebuke can do something, but before it even gets to that point, I think Shay would have a better ability to either dodge those attacks or lay more damage onto Kofi before like he can actually use them, right? But yeah, everything else is just overkill. Like all this, like Shay's far stronger than him at this point. The Purple Flames would basically, if they work based on Chi and like Kofi can live, he could just take away his powers. And if I guess like if you have to be made of Chi for the Purple Flames to work on you, then this wouldn't really work though. This wouldn't work. But these like all he needs is these 3, and this is just already overkill. Let's look at these. Okay, what backstory am I most excited for? It has to be this one. Let's rank them. Let's actually rank these. It's gonna be the Sabito versus Vayal flashback. It's gonna be the Sabito versus Vayal flashback because it has so much presence in the story. Then it's gonna be the Heart Clan Massacre because I think it's the most relevant of the remaining ones. Then I would go Kaguya backstory, and then I would go Malhazar backstory. I think that's the proper order for how much like it actually does for the story, in my opinion. Especially because this fight has more. It has more mention than like everything else, from what I remember. This kind of sets up a lot for other characters outside of just Shay and Yukiko. Like it has something to do with Nico, Johan, and any other lingering Heart Clan members out there. This is more of a setup thing as opposed to something that really needs to be dove into, I guess, in the active plot, I guess. Whereas this one, I feel like this can directly affect or change how we view what's going on in the plot as opposed to this one, if that makes sense, right? I think that makes sense. Right? I definitely think Sabito versus Vayal, Brent wants to do it in season 4 now, but I think he has to. Like there's no other place he can put it. Because the longer he prolongs it, I feel like the less relevant it becomes. That's just me though. That could be like an improper take, because you can kind of put a backstory and have it be relevant anywhere, but also no at the same time. It doesn't like you also can't do it that way, right? So like, for example, if we put Leo versus Cain in season 5, it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't work, right? So we have to place the flashback in a proper setting, right? And I think at season 5, it would be kind of too late for it. I feel like it wouldn't have the same amount of relevance. But that's just me. That's my opinion. But we have reached a 3-hour mark. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the stream off. I appreciate y'all for being here. As always, the VOD will be up once the stream is over. It might be a little bad quality, but give it like a good 24 hours and we're good. But it may not be the case. Sometimes it does like upload with HD off rip. I will see y'all on Saturday. I have to finish editing the next Wukong, the last Wukong session. And then I think that should be kind of over a lot faster. So we'll play like a game. I might do some Tekken. I might do some Sifu. I might even do like Cuphead low key. Maybe. I might even do it like that. But we'll see. Like I said, low key putting it as a transition during a scrap between him and Yukiko, if they ever cross paths, would be sick. You mean like Vayal versus Yukiko? Actually, I mentioned that. Where did I mention that at? I mentioned that in a couple streams. No, I mentioned that in one specific stream. I might have referenced it in another one though. I referenced that in either my first or second Wukong session. I definitely mentioned that there. Definitely go check back that VOD and watch it, because I do talk about that concept. Appreciate you for being here, Summer. Stay blessed as well. Appreciate all y'all, all the views, all the likes. Make sure you like the stream, or don't. It doesn't really matter. I'll see y'all Saturday. Who knows what we'll do next week for this section of the stream. Maybe comment some ideas y'all have. But I'll see y'all in the next one. Y'all stay blessed, stay hydrated, eat your food, eat your veggies, stay protected, stay strapped in both ways. And I'll see y'all